Chapter 1073, Changes of Hellfire City. The middle-aged man suddenly stood up and a vast presence immediately began to radiate from him. It shook the surroundings with raw force, causing the entire mountain to shake slightly. Venerable Poison's word, don't worry. I am a person who keeps his word. I will do it since I've agreed to you. Once I take revenge for the devastation of the Bai family, my body will belong to you. I will not resist. Determination flowed through the man's eyes. He was not afraid of death. Kaka, all right, good. I trust you, but I do hope you move a little faster, so that I don't have to wait too long. The horrible, husky voice rang in Bidao's head again. It sounded impatient. Biyao said nothing. With a wave of his hand, the sword in the ground immediately erupted with extremely great energy, which collided with the mountain. With a boom, the entire cavern collapsed. The rock was actually reduced to pieces by the supreme power that erupted from the ordinary-looking sword. My dwelling. Biyao, you brat, do you know that I constructed this dwelling all those years ago with so much work? Why, you've actually destroyed my dwelling. You drive me mad. The venerable Poison's word hiding within Bidao's head immediately bellowed out in anger with the destruction of the cavern. Venerable Poison's word, you will be able to see the light of day again soon. Do you still care that much about a mere dwelling? Biyao said coldly and emotionlessly. He had already grasped the sword tightly in his hand. The sword was no ordinary weapon, but a king armament left behind by a saint king at great perfection. It was the heaven-quaking sword, the saint weapon of Venerable Poison's word who had once shaken up the continent 20,000 years ago. Venerable Poison's word immediately shut up because of what Biyao had said. Biyao remained silent as well. With the heaven-quaking sword in hand, he shot off like a cannonball, climbing up into the sky in an instant. He shot off into the distance after determining his directions and immediately disappeared into the dense mist. Hellfire City was a king city in the Karl Empire. Regardless of size, area, or prosperity, it was only second to the 7 capital cities of the continent. Hellfire City possessed several tens of thousands of years of history in the Karl Empire. Its walls were entirely made from essence metal. They were extremely tough and could resist the attacks of Class 5 magical beasts with ease. Throughout history, the walls had fended off over 100 magical beast hordes, allowing the city to come out unscathed each time. Several millions of people lived within the city. Coupled with the everyday flow of people, the number of people that Hellfire City could accommodate was close to 100 million. Many experts rose from Hellfire City since there was such a large population, along with countless clans of different sizes. The Blood Cloud clan was the most powerful clan in the city. It was originally the second greatest there, but ever since the Bai family had been wiped out in a single night 50 years ago, they had completely replaced them. They were now unquestionably the greatest clan in the city. This was because the Blood Cloud clan possessed a new saint ruler. He was not an ancestor of the clan, but a talented junior. With his supreme talent, he reached saint ruler in just a few hundred years, and he even became the disciple of an imperial protector of the empire. He was deeply valued and was raised as a pillar of support for the future of the empire, causing the clan's status in the city to soar, becoming admired by everyone. A vast presence suddenly appeared outside the city. A figure made its way past the great walls of the city in the form of a blur. Without any decrease in speed, it flew to the center of the city with a threatening presence, alerting countless people along the way. The figure brazenly flew through a small portion of the city and descended before a large manor in the very center of the city. It was where the Blood Cloud clan resided. The figure wore black robes and radiated with a presence so vast that it would make people suffocate. His long hair danced in the windless air as his robes fluttered as well. He stared at the manor in a daze as reminiscence filled his eyes. Deep sorrow was also present. The 4 burly guards at the entrance of the clan stared at the man in shock. Without saying anything, they ran into the clan to report what had happened. They dared not stay for even a moment longer. The presence from the man had utterly frightened them, causing their legs to tremble. They believed that they had seen quite a few experts themselves, but this was the first time they had sensed such a great presence. Vast pressure came from the presence, which made the guards feel like their souls were going to shatter. Before the guards could even report what had happened, all of the experts in the clan sensed the frighteningly vast presence as well. Immediately, an energetic and polite voice rang out from within the clan. "May I inquire who you may be to have come to my clan as a guest?" "I am Wuxia, the patriarch of the Bloodcloud clan. I welcome you to the Bloodcloud clan on behalf of all clansmen." A dashing, middle-aged man in golden robes slowly walked out of the manor. Although he was unhurried, each step of his covered several dozen meters. He arrived at the main entrance with a little more than 10 steps, before politely bowing to the black-robed man. Wuxia was the same genius of the clan who had reached Saint Ruler in less than 1,000 years. He had also become a deeply valued disciple of an imperial protector of the empire. At the same time, he was the patriarch of the Bloodcloud clan. Afterward, the clan filled with blurs. Several Heaven Saint Masters and a group of Earth Saint Masters hurried over from all directions, all gathering behind Wuxia. They stared at the black-robed man sternly, unsure about his intentions. The black-robed man stood dead straight, like a stick outside the Bloodcloud clan's doors. He stared in a daze at the two large words, Bloodcloud clan, written on the amethyst board above the main entrance. His expression was extremely mixed, filled with reminiscence, sorrow, and anger. "I never thought that Hellfire City would change so much after leaving for 50 years. The once prosperous clan from then has also become memories of the past. Nothing of it remains now." "Nothing," murmured the black-robed man. His sorrow grew deeper and deeper, before quickly turning into an icy killing intent. In that moment, all the pain and reminiscence in his eyes disappeared. It all became abnormally cold. Suddenly, the man stabbed his sword into the ground. A terrifying storm of energy erupted, charging toward the Bloodcloud clan with an unstoppable force, as if it was under someone's control. "Senior, what are your intentions?" Wuxia paled in surprise, immediately backpedaling. At the same time, Saint Force gushed out of his body, turning into a barrier to protect himself as well as the experts of his clan. No one sustained any injuries from the terrifying storm of energy, but the main entrance and walls of the clan were not as fortunate. All of them collapsed, throwing dust into the air. Even the board hanging above the main entrance fell down. The black-robed man advanced with a single step. He threw a punch at the board as it was falling, turning it into dust. More and more people gathered from within the clan. All the guards as well as many clansmen had come, all hiding behind Wuxia as they stared in shock at the collapsed walls and entrance. The disturbance at the clan alerted nearby people as well. Very soon, many people gathered from all directions to watch what was happening. There were even a few Heaven Saint Masters hanging several hundred meters in the air as they watched from afar. Wuxia's complexion became extremely horrible. He growled, "I am Wuxia. My master is Imperial Protector Mo Jian. Senior, may I ask if my clan has offended you in any way? Please enlighten me." The man finally looked at Wuxia. With an icy, emotionless gaze, he said, "Do you know who I am?" Wuxia observed the man carefully, and a sliver of doubt appeared in his eyes. He said, "Junior is very limited in his knowledge, so I hope Senior can forgive me." Wuxia dared not be impolite. He could already tell that the person before him was someone on the level of his master from presence alone. It would be extremely difficult to protect his life even with his master if he offended someone at a level like that. "My name is Biyao," the black-robed man said emotionlessly. Wuxia immediately jolted all over when he heard the name. He became shocked as he cried out, "What? Your surname is Bai? Are you a person of the Bai family?" Wuxia's heart began to churn as great fear began to pervade his insides. The manor of his Bloodcloud clan was constructed ere the Bai family originally belonged. 50 years ago, the news of how the Bai family had been wiped out in a single night shook up the entire city. Now, not only did the Bloodcloud clan replace the Bai family as the #1 clan, they even took the Bai family's territory. If a member of the Bai family with terrifying strength accidentally connected the Blood Cloud clan to the destruction of his family, Yu Zixing could not imagine the possible consequences his clan would face. Chapter 1074, Bidao's Revenge. Bidao's right eye looked rather demonic, as if a will-o-wisp was leaping about inside. He then took a step forward and arrived before Yu Zixing in an instant. He placed the heaven-quaking sword on the shoulder of Yu Zixing. With its tremendous pressure, he said, "Speak, who was responsible for wiping out my Bai family all those years ago?" I don't know. Senior, I really don't know. It has nothing to do with my Blood Cloud clan. Yu Zixing was utterly terrified. The pressure from the king armament seemed to invade his soul, and he could not even think of resisting in that moment. He was a saint ruler, but only someone who had reached that level recently. He still belonged to the first heavenly layer. A dense killing intent flashed through Bidao's eyes. Then is there still any use to leave you around if you don't know? With that, Bidao swung the heaven-quaking sword before Yu Zixing could explain, beheading him. At the same time, a great energy shot out from the sword and into Yu Zixing's head, wiping out his soul. A talented saint ruler died just like this. The light in Bidao's right eye danced about crazily. God damn it, you brat, why did you kill him? Didn't you hear that his master was an imperial protector of the Karl Empire? Why, you drive me insane. You're just causing problems for me. Venerable Poison Sword's enraged voice immediately rang through Bidao's head with the death of Yu Zixing. Bidao's face remained the same, completely ignoring the Venerable Poison Sword's cries. He slowly swept his gaze over the manor of the Blood Cloud clan, and he murmured, "This place belongs to the Bai family. It will always belong to the Bai family. No one can take this sacred piece of land away. I'll kill whoever does." Bidao spoke very softly, but it was filled with killing intent. Every member of the Blood Cloud clan heard what he said clearly. He then gazed past the people of the Blood Cloud clan and continued, "Who is the one responsible for the Bai family back then? Speak and I will spare you." Everyone was pale-faced. Their legs trembled since they were utterly frightened. No one dared to say anything. Yu Zixing was a saint ruler, yet he was slain without even being able to fight back. That affected them all greatly. Killing intent surged within Bidao's eyes. He murmured, "Since you don't know, you can all go die." Bidao slowly raised the heaven-quaking sword, before swinging it down with lightning speed. Boom! With a great sound from the center of Hellfire City, the greatest clan in the city was wiped out in an instant. No one was left alive, suffering a fate similar to the Bai family all those years ago. The luxurious manor was reduced to ruins. The destruction of the Blood Cloud clan shook the entire city very soon, astounding everyone. Countless people went to see exactly what was happening. Bidao stood in the ruins of the clan with his arms crossed as he zoned out at the floor. His eyes were dull and filled with reminiscence, as if he was trying as hard as he could to think back to all the times from before. The king armament was stabbed into a tough piece of rock by his side. It radiated with a great pressure, causing everyone in the surroundings to shiver in fear. No one dared to approach him, watching on from afar as sounds of discussions constantly rang out. A huge stone pillar stood behind Bidao, and on it was carved some large forceful words, "A descendant of the Bai family has returned with the beast fur. Come get it." A powerful clan that was equivalent to hermit clans had just been wiped out in an instant. It may not have been much on the continent where conflict never ended, but it caused a huge uproar in Hellfire City. A group of guards immediately hurried from the city lord's manor to where the clan was after they heard the news. However, they hid in the crowd as they watched from afar, unwilling to reveal their presences. They felt extremely frightened when they saw how the clan had been reduced to rubble. All the other large clans in the city arrived where there had been Blood Cloud clan as well. Without a single exception, all of them hid in the distance, fearfully staring at the black figure in the ruins. To all of them, the black figure seemed like a demon from hell. Bidao was that terrifying. The huge pillar in the ruins became the center of attention as well. When they saw the words carved on it, many people immediately guessed Bidao's identity. He was actually a member of the Bai family that had been wiped out 50 years ago. An old man in dragon robes and a crown sat in the study of the imperial palace in the Karl Empire as he read in interest. There was only him in the quiet study, but powerful presences erupted from the corners of the room from time to time. The old man was the emperor of the Karl Empire. He was not very powerful, but he possessed great authority. The way the Karl Empire was controlled differed from how the Holy Empire was controlled. On the surface, the Holy Empire seemed to be controlled by the imperial family, but true control was actually in the hands of the three great clans. The imperial family was just a puppet to the three clans. Even the position as emperor would be switched between members of the three clans. The Karl Empire, on the other hand, completely fell to the control of the imperial family. It was the same as the Felicity Empire. At this moment, the space around the emperor rippled slightly and a man shrouded in a black cloak silently appeared. He passed on a letter in his hands politely and said, "Your Majesty, this is an urgent letter from Hellfire City." The emperor looked up before slowly putting down the book in his hand. He took the urgent letter and began to read it. A while later, he furrowed his brows. The Blood Cloud clan of Hellfire City has actually been wiped out, and even Yu Zixing is dead. Yu Zixing reached Saint Ruler in 500 years and was highly likely of becoming a Saint King. Sigh, it really is a pity for such a genius to die before he could fully mature. The emperor folded up the letter and then passed it back to the cloaked man. He said, "Go, take this letter to Imperial Protector Mo Jian." "Yes, sir." The cloaked man politely replied, before disappearing with the letter. In the depths of the imperial palace, a white-robed, wrinkly, old man sat on a cushion with his eyes closed. He seemed extremely ordinary and possessed no eye-catching characteristics, other than the fact that his robes seemed to be rather expensive. "Sir Imperial Protector, Enshrouded One has come under orders from the Emperor to deliver this letter." Suddenly, a polite and somewhat emotionless voice rang out from outside. "Come in." The old man called out without even opening his eyes. The door opened and the cloaked man entered with his head lowered. He walked in softly from outside and courageously passed the letter to the old man. The old man slowly opened his eyes. His eyes were profound, like the vast night sky. He slowly raised his hand to accept the letter and began reading it. The next moment, his face abruptly changed. His nonchalant gaze turned into a glare in an instant. 2 streaks of light actually shot out of his eyes like blades. He was extremely terrifying, causing the space before him to tremble slightly. Yu Zixing's actually been slain in Hellfire City. How dare they, how dare they? Who dares to do something like this? To even kill a disciple of mine, of Mo Jian. The old man became enraged and suddenly stood up from the cushion. The letter in his hand had turned to dust. "Humph, I'd like to see just exactly who it is who dares to be so reckless and completely disregard any respect for me within the Karl Empire." The old man was completely pale. With a swing of his arm, a crack immediately formed in the space beside him, warping into a space gate. Taking a step, he vanished. Biyao stood in the ruins of the Blood Cloud clan like a sculpture. He did not move even after a very long time, while more and more people gathered in the surroundings, maintaining a distance of 1,000 meters from him. All of them pointed at the ruins of the clan and actively discussed the event. The Bai family of Hellfire City from 50 years ago, which had almost forgotten by people, slowly returned to all their memories as well. A descendant of the Bai family has returned with the beast fur. Come get it, maybe the destruction of the Bai family had something to do with this beast fur? For the descendant of the Bai family to return in such a brazen fashion, he probably wants to lure out the culprit who devastated his family all those years ago and then take revenge. But just what level of strength does this descendant possess? Even Yu Zixing, a saint ruler, wasn't his opponent. This is just too frightening. Discussions constantly rose from the crowd. Though, the words carved into the pillar behind Biyao had answered many of their questions. Suddenly, a colorful space gate appeared in the air about the ruins. Before the person who had created the space gate even emerged, a vast presence blanketed the surroundings, stretching out in a bold manner. It actually enveloped the entire city. Everyone in Hellfire City stopped what they were doing at that moment. They stared at the sky in shock. Many of them could not see the space gate high up in the air, but they could feel where the presence was coming from. Biyao finally began to faintly move in the ruins of the Blood Cloud clan. He slowly raised his head and glared at the space gate in the air. His expression did not change. However, Bidao's right eye flashed vigorously. Venerable Poison's word exasperated voice rang out in his head, a fifth heavenly layer Saint King. It's a fifth heavenly layer Saint King. Biyao, you brat. You've actually provoked a fifth heavenly layer Saint King. God damn it, if you don't want to live anymore, at least don't drag me to my death as well. Experts like these may have been nothing to me when I was at my peak, but my current condition. Sigh, you sure have made it disastrous for me now. Chapter 1075. The Saint King Mo. Two different kinds of light flickered in Bai's eyes. He seemed to completely ignore Venerable Poison Sword's anger and stared at the space gate in the air emotionlessly. His eye that remained normal revealed some sternness. The heaven-quaking sword erupted from the rock it had been stabbed into. It became coated in a thick layer of energy, shattering the rock. OT then flew into Bidao's hand as if it possessed a spirit. After blanketing the surroundings with a violent presence, a white-robed, wrinkly old man slowly emerged from the space gate. Immediately, an indomitable might began to radiate from him, deeply shocking everyone in the city. It was like the descent of a supreme lord. The old man looked down at everyone like a king lording over his citizens. His face was prideful and cold while his eyes shined with interest. He stared closely at Biyao, who stood in the ruins, and growled, "Was it you who killed my disciple?" Biyao did not fear him. He stared at the old man and emotionlessly asked, "You must be Yu Zixing's master, the imperial protector of the Karl Empire, Mo. Correct, that is me. Mo. Coldly replied. Bidao's gaze remained icy. The land beneath me belongs to my Bai family. No one can take it. I'll kill whoever tries. Mo. Furrowed his brows slightly with that. He seemed to stare at Biyao in disbelief. You're a member of the Bai family? The Bai family was a great clan that possessed a saint ruler in the past, so even Mo. Had heard about the clan before. What he did not understand was, when did an expert like this appear in the Bai family? Correct. Bidao's face remained the same as before. Mo's face grew colder. Since you're a member of the Bai family, you're also someone of the Karl Empire. In other words, you're no outsider. However, you killed me, disciple, so you have to give me an explanation for this. If you want an explanation, I'll give you one, growled Biyao. A vast battle intent immediately erupted from him, surging into the sky. It caused the wind and clouds to churn. The heaven-quaking sword in his hand also erupted with a shocking sword chi. Biyao, my strength is far from my peak right now. I can't let you waste it like this. Don't resist, I'll take over your body. This battle needs to be completed as soon as possible, or both of us will end up dead once all of my energy is expended. The venerable elder's voice rang in Bidao's head. Biyao said nothing and slowly lowered his head. At that moment, no one realized that the light in Bidao's left eye quickly vanished, becoming lifeless in the blink of an eye. Afterward, an odd light suddenly appeared in that left eye, flashing about. It was filled with an evil feeling. Now, both of Bidao's eyes had become demonic, as if two will-o-wisps were dancing around inside. Unexpectedly, Biyao rose from the ground, shooting into the sky like a rocket. The heaven-quaking sword in his hand also erupted with a bright green light. It was a potent poison. Not only was Venerable Poison's word powerful, he was someone who frequently used poison. His poison was no less potent than Nubi's venom. Mo. Could not help but furrow his brows when he saw how resolutely Biyao behaved, ready to give it all into the battle. Although Yu Zixing was his disciple in name, their relationship as master and disciple did not exist at all. Mo Jian indeed was greatly angered when he heard about Yu Zixing's death, but that was mainly over the disrespect rather than the actual death. After all, his disciple had been killed in the territory of the Karl Empire. That was a provocation and insult in his eyes. Mo Jian originally thought that the person who killed Yu Zixing was a saint ruler, which is why he hurried over angrily. However, once he arrived above the city and discovered that the murderer was a saint king just like him, many of his thoughts of revenge disappeared. He could not offend a saint king over someone who did not even treat him as a master, especially due to the fact that the saint king was also a member of the Karl Empire and had only come to destroy the Blood Cloud clan. As a result, Mo Jian lost interest in pursuing this matter. Asking for an explanation from Biyao was just a way for him to set up a way out of the situation. He had never thought that not only would Biyao refuse to cooperate, he would even come at him threateningly, throwing him into a temporary dilemma. Heaven-quaking sword. Cloud piercer. Biyao had already struck out before Mo Jian could prepare himself. With a loud bellow, poisonous gas immediately surged out of the sword in his hands. The deep green light completely shrouded the sword, which was thrust out with a vast energy. The sword disappeared the moment it was thrust forward. It arrived before Mo Jian in an odd manner within the next moment, and the potent poison fused perfectly with the terrifying energy. It stabbed toward Mo Jian mercilessly. Mo Jian immediately turned solemn. He could clearly feel just how powerful this strike was, shocking him greatly. Only until that point did he suddenly realize that Bidao's presence alternated between strong and weak, but it was no weaker than himself. He could even feel mysteries of the world beyond the fifth heavenly layer of Saint King in the strike, which utterly astounded him. Without any hesitation, Mo Jian drew his saint weapon as fast as he could. His weapon was a huge one-handed sword that was the width of a palm, and as soon as it appeared, the vast quantities of energy within him surged into the sword. He stabbed out with all his might, making it collide with the heaven-quaking sword. Boom! With a deafening sound, the two terrifying energies wildly smashed into each other. They immediately caused the surrounding space to rupture, forming a black hole over 30 meters across. The surroundings violently shook. After the clash, the heaven-quaking sword turned around and returned to Bidao's hand. Mo Jian's body, on the other hand, shook violently, and his complexion immediately became rather ugly. He was not injured after blocking Bidao's attack, but he fell into a disadvantageous position. The potent poisonous gas also entered his body. He had rarely ever come across a poisonous gas like this, and it was extremely powerful. It forced him to use 50% of his power to suppress it. Biyao floated emotionlessly in the air with his sword as the light in his eyes constantly flickered. He coldly said, "Is this enough of an explanation? If it's not enough, I can provide you with an even more satisfying one." Mo Jian stared at Biyao in shock. He paid close attention to Bidao's eyes. He could feel that the person before him was rather strange just from his instincts, but he could not tell exactly where this strangeness came from. Mo Jian inhaled deeply and slowly calmed himself down. After a moment of peace, he could not help but swallow his pride. "Sir is also a member of the Karl Empire. It truly is worthy of celebration for another great expert to appear in my empire. My failure of a disciple was looking for it himself for taking up your clan's territory. He deserved much more than death." Mo Jian gave in. In the clash earlier, he knew that he was definitely not Bidao's opponent. Gaining such a powerful enemy over someone who did not even act like a disciple was not a smart choice. Mo Jian paused slightly before continuing, "Your strength is extraordinary, and you are also a member of the Karl Empire. If you are willing, you are welcome to take up the position as Imperial Protector at any time." With that, Mo Jian stuck around no longer and flew away. "Wait, just who wiped out the Bai clan back then?" Biyao coldly asked. Mo Jian froze and glanced at the huge pillar in the ruins. He said, "I spent most of my time in seclusion within the palace, so it has already been several hundred years since I last meddled with worldly affairs. If you want to find your enemy, you are welcome to come find the emperor in the palace. I believe His Majesty will be very willing to assist you." Mo Jian left hurriedly through a space gate. Biyao also descended from the sky, returning to the ruins. The flickering light in his eyes also slowly calmed down, until all that was left was a sharp gaze. Brat, stay a little more composed for me in the future. Just that exhausted 20% of my power. If it weren't for my foresight to use supreme strength to deter that person right from the get-go, we'd probably still be fighting right now. If we get stuck in a battle of endurance, we would lose for sure. Venerable Poison Sword's angry voice rang through Bidao's head. Biyao did not respond. He focused his attention on his dantian. In there was a thumb-sized pearl that floated quietly. It was completely composed of energy, extremely terrifying energy. The pearl was the Venerable's power. It had been sealed through a special method, and the Venerable could use it at his will while Biyao could only use a tiny portion of it. Once all the power was exhausted, it would be extremely difficult to recover. The power sealed within was indeed 20% less than before. Biyao did not go to the imperial palace of the Karl Empire. He waited there silently in the ruins. He had a feeling that those people would definitely come. In the blink of an eye, night had already descended, blotting the entire world with darkness. In an extremely desolate region of the continent, a huge, jet-black divine hall silently stood in a mountain range. It radiated with a chilling aura. It seemed like a place where demons lived, enough to make people shiver in fear. Reporting to the Yama, a descendant of the Bai family has appeared in Hellfire City of the Karl Empire. He has carved the fact that he had returned with the beast fur into a stone pillar. What should we do, Yama? A vague, evil-sounding voice sounded in the dark palace. What? A person of the Bai family has returned to Hellfire City with the beast fur? Is that true? A husky voice rang out from the pitch-black hall. It sounded like the shrieks of ghosts. It is completely true. However, he seems to be very powerful. He fought off an imperial protector of the empire without suffering defeat. A member of the Bai family has returned to Hellfire City with the beast fur. Looks like he knows the destruction of his clan 50 years ago was caused by the beast fur. However, we have to obtain the beast fur now that it has appeared once again. It doesn't matter just how powerful that person is. He can't stop as. Send the orders to summon the 10 Protector Kings to accompany me to Hellfire City. Chapter 1076, Trapped in the Yama Hall, 1. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed since the Blood Cloud clan had been wiped out in Hellfire City. During those 7 days, news regarding the event swept through Karl Empire like a storm. Since the person who had wiped them out in less than 10 minutes was a member of the Bai family, that news became the biggest drawing point. Afterward, various rumors appeared regarding the descendant of the Bai family as well as the destruction of the Bai family 50 years ago. They crazily spread across the Karl Empire. The imperial family of the Karl Empire did not respond in regards to how the Blood Cloud family was wiped out. Ever since their imperial protector Mo Jian had come back several days ago, they did nothing, indicating that they did not wish to interfere with Bidao's matters. After all, Biyao was also a member of the empire, and he was a saint king. He was an existence that the imperial family wished to pull over, so why would they take offense over the death of a saint ruler? During those 7 days, Biyao stood unmoving in the ruins of the Blood Cloud clan. He did not even take a single step from that place. The heaven-quaking sword remained stabbed into the ground beside him. Its luster was gone and it seemed extremely ordinary, but the pressure it possesses still existed. It slowly pervaded the surroundings, no longer making them seem so ordinary. A large crowd of people remained in the surroundings of the ruins, watching on from afar. During those few days, people had come and left. There were even a great group of people who had come from several thousand kilometers away just to see the awe of a saint king. Very soon, darkness descended on the earth once more. The bustling city gradually began to quieten down, and the people in the surroundings all slowly dispersed. Only Biyao remained where he was, disregarding any fatigue. Biyao could not help but think of everything that had once happened right now. Countless faces of the Bai family flashed through his head one by one, and his cold gaze gained some gentleness. So many years have passed. I wonder how Shangtian is right now. He's the only descendant left of my Bai family. I hope he can survive, sister. Once I take revenge for the destruction of the clan, I'll go hunt down the people who murdered you. Even if I have to search to the ends of the earth, I will find them and use their blood to hold a ceremony to remember you. Sister, rest well. Your brother won't let you die for nothing. Biyao was filled with deep sorrow. When the Bai family had been wiped out all those years ago, only he and his sister survived. Now that Bai Yuntian was dead, all that was left in the family was him. Suddenly, loneliness began to pour out of Bidao's heart. He felt so lonely at the moment, as if he was the only one left from the glorious Bai family all those years ago. He had always remained in the soul-claiming mountains in recent years, having only left a few days ago. He had not learned about the major events occurring across the Tianyuan continent. He still had no idea that his sister had been revived by Jian Shen, while his nephew was no longer a mere saint ruler, now a great saint king. Suddenly, a cold breeze gently blew past him. The surrounding sound seemed to vanish in that instant, and the city seemed to become a haunted place of deathly silence. Bidao's head immediately cleaned up, and he dismissed his random thoughts. He slowly raised his head and looked around emotionlessly. 10 figures had appeared in the surroundings silently at some time. They seemed to have fused with the darkness. Although they stood there out in the open, it was extremely easy for people to miss them, making it very difficult to sense them. The 10 figures stood there silently like that. No one said anything, nor did any presences leak out, causing the atmosphere to become rather odd. Burning killing intent immediately appeared in Bidao's eyes when he looked at the 10 people surrounding him. He could clearly remember that when the Bai family was devastated several dozen years ago, it was done by a group of people in similar attire. You've finally come. I've waited here for you for several days already. Bidao's voice was extremely icy as killing intent radiated from him without restraint. He slowly drew the heaven-quaking sword from the ground, adding a vast pressure to his killing intent. The 10 people said nothing, but some greed appeared in their cold gazes once they all laid their eyes on the sword in Bidao's hand. Speak, who are you? What organization do you belong to? Biyao continued after not hearing the people respond. The 10 people stood there silently, as if they were a part of the darkness. No one replied to Bidao's questions. No wonder we couldn't find any beast fur when we wiped out the Bai family back then, so it's actually been taken away when a survivor of the family fled. At this moment, a husky voice rang out from nowhere. It was impossible to discern its origins. One of Bidao's eyes began to violently flicker. He stared fixedly at the space before him. A black figure gradually appeared in the empty darkness. It seemed so odd. Just who are you? Biyao stared at the figure. Just from instinct, he could tell that the person before him was the leader of the rest. Survivor of the Bai family, hand over the beast fur if you want to know who I am, sneered the black figure. Killing intent surged in Bidao's eyes. He coldly said, if you want the beast fur, then take it from me, but you might not have the abilities with just the 11 of you. With that, the heaven-quaking sword in Bidao's hand began to shine with dazzling green light. The potent poison fused perfectly with the terrifying energy erupting from the sword. Swish! Biyao stabbed out with the sword, directly targeting the head of the leading figure. You really are a saint king, the black-clothed man involuntarily called out with his hoarse voice. His gaze immediately became stern, and with a flip of his hand, an exquisite black dagger appeared. It was only palm-sized, but it emitted a dense black glow. A cold light could vaguely be seen flickering on it through the dark glow. Kiss of the venomous scorpion. The figure called out and the dagger immediately shot out as a blur. With a violent boom, the dagger collided with the heaven-quaking sword. The sound erupted in the desolate night, alarming the entire city. Countless people woke up from their sleep and lit candles, flooding the city with light in just a few seconds. Biyao and the man were evenly matched in the clash. Survivor of the Bai family, you really are very strong, but you can't keep the beast fur. Why don't you hand it over obediently, and I'll spare your life. Otherwise, today next year will be when people visit your grave, sneered the man. Biyao said nothing. He wielded the heaven-quaking sword in his right hand while the venerable elder's voice rang out in his head, "Brat, you won't be able to beat him even if you use up all of my energy. Let me deal with him." The light in Bidao's eyes became odd once more. He relinquished control over his body, handing it over to the venerable poison's word once again. As soon as the venerable took over, an indescribably vast presence immediately began to radiate from him. He seemed to fuse with the surroundings, as if he had turned into the world in that moment. Even a mere Saint King of the fourth heavenly layer dares to be so arrogant? Die. Venerable Poison's word sneered in disdain after gaining control. He slowly raised the heaven-quaking sword and stabbed out. Not only did the strike contain a great energy and potent poison, it possessed the profound mysteries of the world. Not only did a strike from Venerable Poison's word contain much more energy than the one from Biyao, its might was multiplied several times over. Phantom's flurry. The man's gaze became even sterner. Crying out, the dagger in his hand began to wildly dance about, forming a string of afterimages that filled the space before him. All of the afterimages forcefully shot out. However, the afterimages that struck the heaven-quaking sword all vanished with a bang. The sword seemed like an invincible sword, advancing like a hot knife through butter. It arrived before the man in an instant and impaled his chest. The man roared out and immediately shot back. He separated from the sword and bellowed out, "Slaughter of the 10 kings." The gazes of the 10 darkly clothed men in the surroundings all changed. Vast presences erupted from every single one of them, and they knit together in the middle of the air to form an even greater presence. Afterward, the 10 of them drew their saint weapons at the same time, sending a powerful sword chi into the air simultaneously. The 10 darkness-attributed sword chis weaved together in the air and rapidly formed the face of a demon. It charged toward Biyao, who was below. Biyao could not help but sneer in even more disdain. He mocked, "An attack through a secret from the fusion of 10 ninth heavenly layer saint rulers is only as powerful as a saint king of the second heavenly layer. Is this all you have?" As he said that, he casually stabbed at the sky and a powerful sword chi shot out, destroying the demon face. "Let's go." The man with the dagger did not stick around. Shouting out, he immediately turned into a black figure, shooting off into the distance. The 10 ninth heavenly layer saint rulers did not hesitate either, silently fleeing into the distance. "Where do you think you're going?" "Stay right here." Biyao regained control of his body and pursued them with bloodshot eyes. He had found the people who had wiped out the Bai family all those years ago after great effort, so how could he let them escape so easily? Chapter 1077, Trapped in the Yama Hall, 2. Biyao chased the 11 black-clothed men, leaving Hellfire City very quickly. Although they had only clashed twice in the city, the disturbance was undoubtedly great. Everyone in the city was alerted. There were even quite a few Heaven Saint Masters who quickly flew over to where the Blood Cloud clan had been, wishing to witness a battle between experts to assist them with their future cultivation. However, they were fated to see nothing. When they arrived at the ruins of the Blood Cloud clan, no one was present. Even the descendant of the Bai clan who had always remained there was gone. For some time, the fighting that rang through the city along with the disappearance of the Bai family descendant sent clouds of suspicion into the minds of the citizens of the city. The occurrences also lead to the proliferation of various rumors. The descendant of the Bai family killed Imperial Protector Mo Jian's disciple. The Imperial Protector has gathered his friends to capture him. The descendant of the Bai family has aggravated a great expert by wiping out the Blood Cloud clan and has been taken away. It's probably because the Bai family descendant has gained the attention of some expert of the continent through the beast fur, leading to another intense conflict. He cannot win, so he has already fled. I think it's extremely likely that the people who wiped out the Bai family all those years ago have appeared again. After fighting, they realized they weren't his enemy, so they fled. The descendant cursed them. The descendant of the Bai family is so strong that even Imperial Protector Mo Jian could do nothing to him. I don't think there's anyone on the continent who would want to provoke him. I think it's because his enemies have appeared. Various rumors filled every inch of the city. The matter had already gained the attention of everyone in the city, but no one knew the truth. All they could do was guess. Outside Hellfire City, Biyao pursued the 11 people in a threatening manner as wild gusts of wind blew past him. He was so fast that he seemed to have become a faint blur. Before him, the 10 ninth heavenly layer saint rulers seemed to have fused together. They used a special secret technique to merge all their powers, maintaining a distance from Biyao throughout the pursuit. Every time Biyao was about to catch up to them, their speed would skyrocket and widen the distance between them in an instant. Very soon, Biyao had already pursued them at full speed for one whole day and night. They moved extremely quickly, traversing several 100,000 kilometers in just a day. Brat, this doesn't look right. They seem to be intentionally drawing you in with how they're acting. Be a little careful. Venerable Poison Sword's voice rang out in Bidao's head. Don't worry, I'm not an idiot. I know exactly what I should be doing, Biyao coldly replied. Now that his enemies were right before him, his killing intent boiled inside. He knew that he could finally return the debt of blood from 50 years ago. In the blink of an eye, another 3 days passed. Biyao had already traveled more than 1,000,000 kilometers as he pursued the group of people. It was late, and thick clouds blanketed the sky, completely obscuring the light of the moon. Thus, the night was extremely dark, so dark that vision was severely limited. After chasing them for 4 days, Biyao continued to tail them with no intention of giving up. His gaze was extremely determined as he thought, the people who devastated my Bai family are much stronger than I had imagined. They actually have a Saint King and 10 ninth heavenly layer saint rulers. If I want to take revenge, I need to borrow Venerable Poison Sword's power. It'll be impossible otherwise with my talent. The Venerable Elder's soul shares my body. I do know that you are rapidly growing accustomed to my body, and once you have completely adapted, you'll probably forcefully take over my body and devour my soul. At that time, it doesn't matter if I've successfully taken revenge. The outcome will all be the same, so why shouldn't I use everything I have? It's not like my life belongs to me anymore. Biyao continued to chase down the 11 people without any fear with a mindset like that. Nothing could stop his advance, not even immense danger, because he knew that it would be the Venerable Elder's problem if he came across great dangers, not his own. Right now, all Biyao thought about was revenge. The 11 people entered a desolate mountain range with Biyao. They quickly made their way through the dark mountains, before fleeing into a pitch-black palace. Biyao saw the giant palace, but he did not hesitate at all. He continued into the palace without slowing down at all. Brat, stop. Don't go in there, it's a trap. The Venerable Elder's panic-stricken voice rang out in Bidao's head. The light in Bidao's eyes also fluctuated in brightness as the Venerable Elder attempted to forcefully take control. Venerable Poison's word, the strongest of my enemies is only at the 4th heavenly layer of Saint King. They pose no threat to you, and this is their lair. I will completely flip the lair upside down and turn it into a river of blood and corpses, Biyao roared out inside. His flickering eyes quickly stabilized, replaced by a cold determination. The body belonged to Biyao after all. Biyao successfully suppressed Venerable Poison Sword's attempt to steal his body. Bastard. Biyao, you brat, don't be carried away by your hatred. Return to your senses. Stop. It's a trap inside. Don't go in. If you want to die, just don't drag me to my death as well. The Venerable Elder was utterly exasperated as he roared out. Biyao completely ignored what he said, entering the palace in the form of a black blur. As soon as he made his way in, the main entrance immediately slammed shut. It was pitch black inside, where nothing could be seen. Suddenly, a scorching presence surged in. The temperature of the palace began to skyrocket and black flames appeared on the ground. It formed an odd formation, trapping Biyao. God damn it. This is a formation, brat. You've been trapped in the formation. The Venerable swore angrily as his hatred for Biyao seeped into his bones. Ha 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 ha. Survivor of the Bai family, welcome to the Yama Hall of the three great assassination organizations of the continent. You are our first guest in the past 1,000 years, so please enjoy the scenery of our hall. A horrible voice appeared out of nowhere. It sounded like the sobs of a ghost, while its laughter seemed extremely sinister. God damn it, it's actually the Yama Hall of the three famed assassination organizations of the continent. I've been trapped by them. Biyao, you brat, you sure have brought disaster to me. The venerable elder wailed powerlessly. If he was at his peak, he could try adventuring into the Yama Hall, but he was nowhere as powerful as he had been before in his current form as a soul. There was almost no hope for him to escape after being trapped here. So what about the Yama Hall? Venerable Poison's word, you were a person who once stood at the apex of the continent. You didn't even fear the 10 protector clans, so how can a mere assassination organization stop you? I'll let you take control of my body and take revenge for me, Biyao said to the venerable elder. He could not help but think of his sister, and he sighed inside, sister, I'm useless. I might not be able to take revenge for you. Brat, is there still any use if you let me gain control of your body? The Yama Hall is infamous. It has stood on the continent for over 100,000 years, so how can they be easily dealt with? Especially with how you intentionally entered their lair. Why, you drive me crazy, Venerable Poison's word swore as he took control of Bidao's body. Wielding the heaven-quaking sword in his right hand, he sternly stared at the surging black flames surrounding him. Heaven-quaking sword, heaven cleaver. Suddenly, he roared out and the sword immediately erupted with surging energy. With the sword raised up high, he stabbed at the ceiling of the palace. With a loud boom, the entire structure began to violently tremble. However, his devastating strike did nothing to the palace. Not even a crack had appeared. Ha 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 ha, you still want to break out of this divine hall? I'd suggest you give up on that thought. This divine hall was created by a saint emperor, so unless you can deal a strike as powerful as a saint emperor, you can't break through it. The sinister laughter rang out from the dark room once more. What? It's a divine hall. Venerable Poison's word became ashen from the great shock. He lost all hope while his resentment for Biyao reached a limit. He was tempted to rip Biyao into pieces and eat him alive. A person wrapped in black robes sat on a throne in a hall at the very top of the structure. Below him sat 10 black-clothed people in 2 rows dressed in the exact same fashion as him. Yama, the survivor of the Bai family, has been trapped in the divine hall now. Should we kill him right now and take the beast fur from him? A person below asked. His voice was icy cold and completely emotionless. The person on the throne was the Saint King who fought against Biyao with a dagger in Hellfire City and was repelled by Venerable Poison's word. He was one of the people who held the greatest power in the Yama Hall. The 10 people below him were the 10 protector kings of the Yama Hall, only standing below the Yama in status. There's no need to hurry. The survivor of the Bai family is very strong. He's at least at the 6th heavenly layer, so even though I can kill him, it'll cost me quite a lot of effort. It's not worth it. Since he has been trapped in the divine hall, he can't escape. It's a pity that the primary control of the divine hall is still in the hands of the former Yama. I can only use a small part of the divine hall's power, so I can't activate all the formations of the divine hall. Otherwise, would there still be a need for me to personally kill him? Just the power of the divine hall would be enough. The former Yama's been heavily injured and has been in seclusion for 1,000 years already. I think he should have roughly recovered after 1,000 years, so let's wait for the former Yama to execute him. The Yama had no other choice. In the battle 1,000 years ago against the Bloodsword sect, their organization was heavily damaged. They lost many experts and had yet to fully recover even now. Although they could kill by Dao right now, it would exhaust many experts, which was something they did not want to risk. All they could do was leave by Dao and the venerable poison's word alive, leaving them trapped within the divine hull. Chapter 1078, Breakthrough obstructed. The disturbances in Hellfire City subsided very quickly. However, ever since the battle from that night ended, the descendant of the Bai family never appeared again. A small, wooden hut stood alone on the tallest mountain of a mountain range over 10,000 kilometers away from the city of God. Even though it was buffeted by the cold wind all year round, it seemed to be deeply rooted to the ground. It stood there securely, without even swaying a little. The layout of the hut was extremely simple to the point where it was hard to believe that it was inhabited. Other than a wooden bed, a table, and a chair, there was nothing else. Everyone inside, however, was spotlessly clean. On the bed lay a middle-aged beauty in a dark green dress. She was elegant and her face radiated with a certain righteousness. She possessed a striking appearance, and even though she was already middle-aged, she possessed supreme beauty. A single glance would be enough to discern that she was an enchanting woman in the past. Beside the bed sat a white-robed, middle-aged man. His face was filled with sorrow and pain, and he seemed rather haggard. He gently held the woman's white hand. "Kaiyun, you've slept for 1 whole year. I know that you only sealed yourself off from your aching heart and that you don't want to wake up ever again. Kaiyun, it's me who can't make it up to you. It's me who has no right to see you. The one who should have suffered punishment like this should have been me, not you. Kaiyun, why are you so silly? Kaiyun, can you hear me? Don't be so stubborn. Don't be like this, alright? Wake up. Do you know that I feel horrible when I see you like this?" Such agony. Hao Wu sat beside Czar Kaiyun, gently murmuring to himself as he held her hand. His face revealed the pain he felt. Ever since he had brought Czar Kaiyun away from the city of God, she had always remained unconscious. "Kaiyun, maybe Mu'er can wake you up." "Do I have to go find Mu'er?" Hao Wu murmured as bitterness filled him. He knew extremely well that Mu'er really hated both him and Czar Kaiyun. It would be virtually impossible to get her to awaken Czar Kaiyun with her zither music. And if he really did try something like that, it would probably deepen the heavenly enchantress' hatred for him. What should I do? Just what should I do? Kaiyun, when are you going to wake up? In the blink of an eye, another 2 years passed. It had been 3 whole years since Jian Chen had arrived in Mercenary City. Jian Chen sat like a sculpture in the room Shaoling forged from energy deep below Mercenary City. He did not move at all, not even energy rippled from his body. In the silent and ice-cold room, the space there seemed to pulse like a beating heart. A profound aura filled the surroundings, possessing the indescribable truths of the world. Jian Chen sat there just like that, borrowing the mysteries of the world invoked by Shaoling to comprehend the truths of the world, as well as the laws of the world. After 3 years of hard work, the rate he improved at could not be described with words. He advanced from the 7th heavenly layer to the 9th heavenly layer in terms of comprehension during those 3 years and had stagnated at the 9th heavenly layer for a whole year. He was at the peak right now, only an inch away from reaching the comprehension of a Saint King. Bai Hai and Huang Tianba remained at the 7th and 6th heavenly layers respectively from 2 years ago. Their talents were nowhere near as great as Jian Chen's, so even with Shaoling's assistance, they failed to advance 1 minor cultivation level a year. However, the speed at which they comprehended the secrets meant it would require another 3 years before they could break through once more. The reason why they had broken through together in just 1 year before was because they had stagnated at that level for several years already. They had already reached the peak, which was why they could make a breakthrough so soon. The two of them were still ravished with joy even though they had just made 1 breakthrough in 3 years, as they would have to waste at least several decades or even over 100 years to break through when they comprehended the mysteries by themselves. With Shaoling's assistance, the time required had been reduced several times over, perhaps even more than 10 times over. In 3 years, Huang Luan's strength increased quickly as well. She reached the 4th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler, while only Chang Wuji and Yang Ling remained as Heaven's Saint Masters. Chang Wuji's talent was ordinary. He had consumed heavenly resources before, but he was virtually at the end of his 1,000-year life. He seemed to have run out of momentum, so even with the assistance of the 3 beast furs, he failed to comprehend the mysteries of the world completely. He remained at the peak of Heaven's Saint Master. On the other hand, Yang Ling had not broken through, but he still had a lot of time ahead of him. As a result, breaking through was only a matter of time for him. Suddenly, the mysteries of the world that filled Jian Chen's room began to pulse violently. The space around Jian Chen also seemed to react, trembling. The room began to distort. Jian Chen's figure also became blurrier and blurrier, until he disappeared in the distorting space. The sunny sky above Mercenary City immediately began to darken. A thick layer of clouds rapidly appeared, enveloping the entire city. The clouds shrouded the sunlight, obscuring the sky. They rapidly expanded, covering a radius of 100,000 kilometers. They threw Mercenary City into darkness in that instance. The sudden change in weather caused everyone in Mercenary City to stop what they were doing. At that moment, everyone raised their heads at the sky. All of them were filled with surprise and were curious, so they began discussing the changes all over the city. No one knew what was happening. The speed at which the clouds had gathered was unbelievable. It did not seem like a storm at all. Just as everyone discussed the sudden change in the clouds, a vast pressure suddenly appeared and pressed viciously down from space. It engulfed all of Mercenary City, and coupled with the pressure was the profound, incomprehensible mysteries of the world. Immediately, everyone felt like a boulder was pressing against their chests, making it difficult for them to breathe. Some weaker people even felt like they were suffocating. These are the mysteries of the world. Someone's broken through to Saint Ruler. No, I've personally witnessed the birth of a Saint Ruler before. The pressure was never this great, and the mysteries of the world that descended were not as strong. Has someone become a Saint King? The birth of a Saint Ruler is accompanied with 5-colored rainbow clouds. If it's a Saint King, there will be 7-colored rainbow clouds. Let's just wait to see the color of the clouds to know if it's a Saint Ruler or a Saint King. Look, everyone, colors have appeared. The rainbow clouds have appeared. Experts were plentiful in Mercenary City, so a few experienced ones could see through the odd phenomenon of the clouds with a single glance. They immediately called out as envy filled their eyes. Afterward, a dazzling multicolored light pierced through the darkness. It appeared in the thick layer of clouds and quickly became magnificent. It reached 7 colors in total very soon, dyeing all the clouds. It was enchanting. It's 7-colored. The clouds are 7-colored. A Saint Ruler's broken through to Saint King. Who has broken through? Is it an elder of Mercenary City? Looks like Mercenary City has gained another expert from today on. The crowd fell into a hubbub. Everyone was extremely excited. To personally witness the birth of a Saint King was something they could only experience through luck. There were just too few Saint Kings on the Tianyuan continent, and it would be difficult for a Saint King to appear even with several billions of people. The appearance of the 7-colored rainbow clouds alerted all the high-ranking members of Mercenary City. With Tianjian as their leader, a group appeared in the air as they stared at the clouds in the sky in amazement. Grand Elder, just who has broken through in our Mercenary City? Why do I sense nothing in regard to this? Is it because the person who broke through isn't in the city but elsewhere in Mercenary City just happens to lie in the radius of the rainbow clouds? An elder politely asked from behind Tianjian. Tianjian stared unblinkingly at the clouds in the sky as interest filled his face. He said, "The clouds are centered around Mercenary City. The person who has broken through is indeed in this city, but he has hidden himself very well. Even I cannot sense where he is." At this moment, an odd phenomenon suddenly appeared. The pressure that filled the surroundings rapidly weakened, and in just a few seconds, it completely disappeared, as if it was never present. The rainbow clouds also began to dull, turning into nothing in a few seconds as well. A deep blue sky reappeared. Tianjian furrowed his brows slightly when he saw this change. Shock filled his eyes, and he called out, "What's happened? Why have the clouds disappeared?" When someone breaks through to Saint King, the clouds will remain for 7 whole days. But why have the clouds dispersed so quickly right after they had formed? This has never happened before. This is unheard of. There is no record of this whatsoever. An elder beside Tianjian cried out in astonishment. Tianjian pondered the occurrence as he stared at the sky. After a while, he seemed to understand something, and he sighed. He said in pity, "That person's failed his breakthrough." Failed? How is that possible? Once the rainbow clouds appear, they are destined to succeed. How can failure appear? This truly is unheard of. All the elders of Mercenary City were utterly confused by how the rainbow clouds had completely disappeared after appearing for less than 20 seconds. They all doubted what they saw. A few knowledgeable people also reached a similar conclusion with their deductions, and they all sighed in pity. At that moment, many people felt sympathetic for the person who had failed his breakthrough. It would truly be a great blow to the person breaking through, since that person was just about to become an expert that no one would dare to anger on the continent, yet that person failed in the final moments. Jianshan snapped open his eyes deep under Mercenary City. He angrily stood up and yelled at the sword spirits in his sea of consciousness, "Ziying, Qingzhua, why have you come and made trouble? I almost would have become a Saint King, but I failed with what you did. Why are you stopping me from reaching Saint King?" Everything was extremely successful as Jian Chen made his breakthrough. Just as he was about to reach Saint King, he had never thought that the sword spirits would suddenly interfere at this crucial moment, denying Jian Chen of his chance to reach Saint King. Chapter 1079. The 5 major realms of the sword. Jian Chen stood up angrily as regret and pity filled his heart. Saint King, that was something he had longed for a very long time. Although reaching Saint King in terms of comprehension would not increase his strength, he could rip open space gates if he did. When that happened, the size of the world did not matter, nor did the distance between 2 places. It would all just be a step away for Jian Chen. He would no longer need to rely on Roy Jin and He Yu if he wanted to go to some distant place. Saint King was the level of cultivation Jian Chen had yearned for. He did not lack prowess in battle. He lacked cultivation. "Master, you can't continue your comprehension of the mysteries of the world because it'll only be detrimental to you," Qing Suo timidly explained as she sensed Jian Chen's anger. "Master, we stopped you from reaching Saint King for your own good. You can't reach Saint King." Ziying's voice also rang out in Jian Chen's head. It sounded extremely stubborn, as if he would obstruct Jian Chen no matter how angry Jian Chen became. Jian Chen calmed down very quickly with that. He suppressed his anger and growled, "Ziying, Qing Suo, just what is this about? Why can't I become a Saint King? Master, you must take the way of the sword as your cultivation path. The way of the sword conflicts with the mysteries of the world you currently comprehended. The two cannot exist together, or they'll affect your future cultivation greatly. Master, are you wondering why we did nothing to obstruct you when you went from the 7th heavenly layer to the 9th heavenly layer? Well, when your comprehension remains at the 9th heavenly layer, Qing Suo and I still had the ability to forcefully purge your comprehension of the mysteries of the world, allowing Master to embark on the way of the sword with no distractions in the future. But if Master reaches Saint King in terms of comprehension, it will be extremely difficult for Qing Suo and I to purge your comprehension. This is why you cannot reach Saint King." "What? You even have to purge my comprehension later?" Jian Chen was astounded. "In other words, I will lose all my comprehension of the mysteries of the world, including the Saint Ruler abilities I currently possess?" "Correct, but don't worry too much, Master. Once you embark on the way of the sword, you will discover that it is much more powerful than the mysteries of the world you are currently comprehending," said Ziying. "Master, the way of the sword is publicly acknowledged as one of the most powerful pathways of cultivation. Before the way of the sword, the mysteries of the world are nothing. Unless the disparity in cultivation is vast, the way of the sword is invincible," said Qing Suo. "Ziying, Qing Suo, is the way of the sword really as powerful as you've described it to be?" If I do embark on the way of the sword, just what level of strength will I obtain? Jian Shen was rather moved. He was a swordsman after all, so he had a special connection to the sword. The temptation he felt for the way of the sword just mentioned by Zi Ying and Qing Suo had reached a level that could even make him risk his life. Master, there are 5 major realms of cultivation for the way of the sword. They are sword origin, sword spirit, sword immortal, sword sage, and sword god. These 5 realms do not represent certain levels of cultivation. They are like the saint tier, heaven tier, earth tier, and human tier battle skills on the Tian Yuan continent. They represent great battle prowess and supreme offensive power. However, the way of the sword is far, far greater than those battle skills on the Tian Yuan continent. The disparity is basically a huge chasm. Even the weakest sword origin far exceeds saint tier battle skills by several times over. And once you reach the sword origin realm, every time you attack, every strike you make will far exceed the strength of saint tier battle skills. At the same time, they are unlike the saint tier battle skills which consume vast amounts of energy when they are used and cannot be used consecutively even by saint kings, explained Ziying. He paused slightly, pondering a little before continuing. The way of the sword is extremely suitable for master. If master embarks on this path of cultivation, you will possess a supreme advantage over others. If master reaches the sword origin realm, master will probably be no weaker than saint kings of the 9th heavenly layer, while master will have no need to fear even saint emperors if you reach the sword spirit realm. Also, the battle prowess gained by these realms will increase as master's base strength grows. The way of the sword was like a heaven tier battle skill. If it was given to an earth saint master, they would be able to display the strength of a heaven saint master, and if a 6th cycle earth saint master cast it, they would even be able to heavily injure heaven saint masters. At the same time, if the same heaven tier battle skill was used by a heaven saint master, the strength would be even greater. Once one of the 5 major realms was reached, battle prowess and offensive capabilities that would be increased, not the person's base strength. At the same time, this boosted battle prowess would increase with the growth of base strength. Jian Shen currently possessed the battle prowess of a 7th heavenly layer saint king, but this was brought upon by the emperor armament. Without it, he would only be as powerful as a saint king of the 3rd heavenly layer. That was Jian Shen's base strength. Although his comprehension of the mysteries of the world was far below that, the energy within him had reached the 3rd heavenly layer, which he could also use as he willed. Jian Shen immediately became filled with excitement because of what the sword spirit said. He no longer resented them for obstructing his attempt to reach Saint King. Instead, it was replaced by a powerful desire to learn the way of the sword. Master, do you still remember when you fought with Czar Kaiyun outside the city of God? You entered a wondrous state during that fight, unintentionally dealing an attack that exceeded your current strength. That was actually the way of the sword, but only the edge of the 1st realm. It's just a pity that you don't have your fated swords, or master would have reached the 1st realm long ago. Ziying's voice was filled with pity. Jian Shen immediately thought back to when he fought Czar Kaiyun and reached an understanding. He murmured, so I had touched the edge of the way of the sword back then. Now I know that that was actually the way of the sword. Jian Shen looked forward to the way of the sword even more now. He felt like this was the cultivation pathway that suited him. Master, if you want to embark on the way of the sword, you need to obtain your fated swords. Only after successfully forging the azulate swords can you comprehend that pathway and reach sword origin, said Qing Suo. He also displayed much anticipation. Ever since the sword spirits took Jian Shen as their master and brought his soul to the Tian Yuan continent, Jian Shen's future cultivation pathway was destined to be the way of the sword. It was just that he had never possessed his fated swords, delaying the time when he would step on the way of the sword. This was why Jian Shen was forced into a cultivation pathway that belonged to this world, so that he could survive. The sword spirits had also been waiting for the day when the azulate swords would be forged after all these years. Only by forging the azulate swords would Jian Shen gain his fated swords, allowing him to truly begin his journey on the way of the sword. The azulate swords, the azulate swords. It's the azulate swords again. Jian Chen became troubled. The materials for the swords were just too difficult to find. Every single one could only be found through luck, so he could not obtain them just because he needed them. Jian Chen gently sighed. He would never give up no matter how hard it would be to find the materials. Not only was this because of the two supreme swords he had longed for, it was also so that he could successfully comprehend the way of the sword and enter the first major realm, sword origin. Ziying, Qing Sua, just how many materials do I lack before I can forge the azulate swords? Jian Chen asked. There's still 4 more. We already have some leads for one of them, which is the Heaven's Soulstone Master came across when you faced the assassination of Yao Mahal. Although we've already obtained a little from that assassin, it's nowhere near enough, said Ziying. The Heaven's Soulstone and the Yao Mahal, Jian Chen softly murmured as a gleam of cold light flashed through his eyes. There was no longer any point for Jian Chen to stick around now that his breakthrough had been obstructed and that he could not reach Saint King. After checking on Bai Hai and the others, he roused Huang Wan from her cultivation and bid farewell with Xiao Ling, before leaving with Huang Wan. Although he wanted to leave Huang Wan there so she could continue her comprehension, the seal in Huang Wan's head had not been erased yet. As a result, he wanted to take Huang Wan to the Protector clan and find a method to remove the secret technique. He could bring Huang Wan to the city at any time in the future and have Xiao Ling assist her in comprehending the mysteries of the world. Xiao Ling unwillingly bid farewell to Jian Chen, before sending Jian Chen and Huang Wan to the surface of the earth. When the two of them appeared, the disturbance from the rainbow clouds still lingered about, so they could hear discussions regarding the clouds everywhere. Jian Chen, why are there so many people talking about 7-colored rainbow clouds and someone reaching Saint King? Are they talking about you? Have you reached Saint King now? Huang Wan stared fixedly at Jian Chen with her large eyes as she asked in surprise. Affection filled her eyes as she looked at him. Right now, Jian Chen's head was filled with matters regarding the way of the sword and the azulate swords, so he had stopped caring about his failure to reach Saint King long ago. He could not help but smile after hearing what Huang Wan had said. He replied completely unperturbed, they seem to be talking about me. I did indeed fail my breakthrough, so my comprehension is still at the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. Chapter 1080, Visiting the Protector Clan. Jian Chen, the failure isn't important. Your talent is supreme, so you'll reach Saint King sooner or later, Huang Wan comforted. Her face was filled with concern. She seemed worried that Jian Chen's failure would affect his state of mind. Jian Chen smiled wryly inside when he heard her concern. Once he began his journey of the way of the sword spirits would forcefully purge his comprehension of the mysteries of the world. He would also lose all his abilities as a saint ruler. Right now, breaking through to Saint King was no longer important. Afterward, Jian Chen and Huang Wan visited the Grand Elder Tian Jian as well as Tai Ta, who always stayed there. They talked for a little before leaving Mercenary City. Jian Chen and Huang Wan returned to the Changyang clan in Lore City through a space gate created by Roy Jin. It had been 3 whole years since Jian Chen had last visited the Changyang clan. During that period of time, nothing really changed about the clan, other than Jian Chen's second brother, Changyang Ku. After seeking Jian Chen's assistance that night, Jian Chen had ordered an exclusive alchemist of Flame City to refine a 10,000-year heavenly resource into a pill and deliver it to the Changyang clan when he last visited Flame City. After ingesting the pill, Changyang Ku immediately underwent an overwhelming change. His ordinary talent was completely raised to the level of a genius. Not only did his strength increase, his rate of cultivation also became extremely fast. He had become a Earth Saint Master now, and he was at the 3rd cycle. At night, Jian Chen and Huang Wan arrived in the fragrant garden behind the clan. Huang Wan had changed into a luxurious, snow-white dress in an attempt to dress like the young lady of a large clan. Any heroic spirits present on her had completely disappeared. She seemed more like a loving, considerate, and well-educated wife. Huang Wan gently hugged Jian Chen's arm. She leaned her head on Jian Chen's shoulder as they slowly strolled through the garden. Her face was filled with happiness. Jianchen, I want to go the sea realm to cultivate after some time. The water-attributed energy there is extremely dense, so it's very suitable for my water spirit's body. I believe that if I cultivate there, the rate at which my strength will increase will not be slower than in Mercenary City. Huang Wuan looked at Jianchen tenderly as she spoke. Her voice was gentle and pleasant. Jianchen obviously did not turn down Huang Wuan's suggestion. The water spirit's body was different from ordinary constitutions. The effects of cultivating in a place with rich water-attributed energy would indeed be impressive, allowing someone with that constitution to comprehend the mysteries of the world in greater detail. Wanner, once I find a way to remove the seal in your head, I'll take you to the sea realm. As for your cultivation method, I have indeed found the first version of the scripture of the aquatic sunflower in the space ring of the Huanggu clan ancestor. However, it's only an elementary Saint Tier cultivation method. Let me see if I can obtain a better Saint Tier cultivation method more suited for you from the sea goddess after I return to the sea realm. I think she knows quite a few as one of the 4 supreme experts from ancient times, Jianchen caringly said. Huang Wuan had already become his woman both in name and in reality, so he needed to put all his effort into forging her future. Huang Wuan nodded obediently and sweetly smiled. She felt extremely moved with how much care Jianchen was showing. At the same time, she felt extremely satisfied. Jianchen's eyes suddenly froze at this moment. A delicate person in luxurious robes currently sat in a pavilion up ahead. Second aunt, Jianchen whispered inside. Although all he could see was her back, he could tell with a single glance that she was his second aunt who had loved him like his own son since he was young. Jianchen and Huang Wuan hurried to the pavilion. Arriving before her, Jianchen asked, "Aunt, it's already so late. Why are you sitting here all by yourself?" Yu Fengyang sat in an utter daze. She seemed to have failed to notice Jianchen at all, so the sudden voice immediately caused her to jump in fright. She looked back instinctively, and when she discovered Jianchen, a forced smile appeared on her sorrow-ridden face. She said gently, "It's Shangtian." Yu Fengyan seemed much more haggard than before, much different than the way she looked several years ago. Her gaze was filled with deep reminiscence. Jianchen felt rather horrible when he saw how Yu Fengyang had become. His second aunt had loved him very dearly when he was young, although he was not her child. She treated him like her own, which was why she had taken up an extremely important position in Jianchen's heart long ago. "Aunt, are you all right? Have you begun thinking about sister again?" Jianchen asked in concern. He had learned about what had happened to his eldest brother and sister long ago. The accumulated longing and pain within Yu Fengyang gushed out uncontrollably when she heard Jianchen mention Changyang Mingyue. She began to sob painfully as tears poured from her eyes like a fountain. She cried from her loneliness. Jianchen's face darkened when he saw how painfully Yu Fengyan cried. He cared very much for his aunt, so he felt rather horrible seeing her like this. "I have no idea how Mingyue is right now. I haven't seen her in over a decade. Mingyue, I know you've become the holy maiden of the Ice God Hall now. When will you return to see your mother? It's been over a decade since I last saw you. I miss you so dearly," sobbed Yu Fengyan as her tears mixed with her voice. Jianchen watched his weeping aunt with mixed emotions. After a moment of silence, he sighed inside and then proceeded to comfort her. "Aunt, don't be like this. I haven't seen sister in over 10 years as well, so I also miss her very much. Once I finish with my matters in a few days, I'll take you to the Arctic to go find sister." Yu Fengyang's face froze when she heard that. What Jianchen had said was like a glimmer of hope in the dark to Yu Fengyang. Her gaze, which was filled with sorrow and reminiscence, stirred. She grabbed Jianchen's hand in a trembling manner and emotionally said, "Is that true? Shangtian, are you really willing to bring me to Mingyue?" The Arctic did not belong to the Tian Yuan continent. It was just like the Three Saint Island the heavenly enchantress inhabited. It was located across the sea, beyond the continent. The continent and the Arctic were separated by water, and it was much further away compared to Three Saint Island. Although Yu Fengyan was a madam of the Changyang clan patriarch, she possessed no real power in the world despite her status in the clan. Coupled with the fact that the Arctic was so far away, it was almost impossible for her to go looking for Changyang Mingyue. The distance was so great that even Heaven Saint Masters could not venture to the Arctic. Only Saint Rulers possessed the ability, and even they would find it costly to take this very long journey. Yu Fengyang's status in the clan was not at the level where she could ask a Saint Ruler to accompany her to the Arctic. "Aunt, don't worry. Once I deal with everything, I will definitely go to the Arctic Ice God Hall," swore Jian Chen. He actually missed his sister very dearly as well. Other than Bai Yuntian, his sister treated Jian Chen the best during his childhood, even far better than his own father, Changyang Ba. Jian Chen and Huang Wan accompanied Yu Fengyan back to her room after comforting her, before separating to their own rooms. The morning of the next day, Jian Chen went to visit Kendall's wife and son. Their inn in Lore City was extremely famous, everyone in the city knew about it. Its name had even spread throughout the entire kingdom. The inn was the safest inn in Lore City, possibly even in the entire kingdom. Fights and arguments would rarely occur there, and if there were people who dared to start a fight, a large group of mysterious experts would charge in from outside and throw them out without exception, sometimes even taking their lives. The inn was always protected by a group of mysteries experts. The identities of these people had already become a known secret in Lore City. Many people knew that they were members of the Changyang clan. Over time, it led to extremely few conflicts in the inn. Some fleeing mercenaries had even treated the inn as a safe haven. Jian Chen had already repaired San's saint weapon that had been destroyed by the people of the Yangji sect, allowing him to cultivate once more. He was no longer a cripple, and his talent was also improved by Jian Chen through heavenly resources. As a result, his cultivation speed was extraordinary. Jian Chen paid extra concern to the mother and son, almost to the point where he would care for the most trivial details. This was all so he could return Kendall's kindness. He had repaid Kendall's kindness countless times over to Sans and his mother. Bidding farewell to them, Jian Chen returned to the Changyang clan. Afterward, he left the city with Changyang Zhu Yunshao, Changyang Zhu Yeyun, Changyang Zhu Yunkong, and Huang Wan. They planned to visit the Changyang Protector clan in order to remove the seal in Changyang Zhu Yunkong's head, as well as to resolve the secret technique embedded in Huang Wan. Changyang Zhu Yunshao constructed a space gate with his abilities as a Saint King. After passing through it, Jian Chen and Huang Wan discovered they had arrived in the sky above an unknown, ancient mountain range. Chapter 1081. The bell of grand clarity chimes 9 times. Jian Chen and Huang Wan stood together 1,000 meters in the air as they observed their surroundings. Changyang Zhu Yunshao, Changyang Zhu Yeyun, and Changyang Zhu Yunking stood beside them. They varied in expression. The couple were extremely excited while Changyang Zhu Yunkong was extremely dejected. He felt heavy-hearted. Jian Chen, this is the main entrance to the Changyang Protector clan. It's located on the eastern part of the continent, and Mercenary City is over 5 million kilometers away. The Protector clans possess the lengthiest histories on the continent, having surpassed 1 million years in age. They are much more ancient than Mercenary City. We had already become the 10 greatest clans before Mercenary City had even been built on the continent, Changyang Zhu Yunshao explained to Jian Chen. Although this was not Jian Chen's first time hearing about the Protector clan's lengthy histories, he still felt astounded by how long they had existed. Jian Chen, the 10 Protector clans of the continent all exist in other independent spaces. This space is described as a world by us, so it is a smaller world, no different than the Tianyuan continent, except for the fact that the energy of the world is much more abundant than the Tianyuan continent. As he said that, Changyang Zhu Yunshao gently raised his right arm. A vast amount of energy shot out, before silently disappearing 100 meters away. The space there immediately began to ripple and 100-meter-tall gate suddenly appeared. A whole different landscape appeared on the other side of the gate. There were beautiful mountains and rivers, as well as various birds soaring through the sky and small beasts scurrying on the ground. It was a world virtually the same as the Tianyuan continent. Jianshen, this is the largest gateway into our Changyang clan. It is called the World Gate, and it is rarely ever opened. However, whenever it is opened, it is because of a large-scale mobilization of the experts in the clan or because someone of great status has come. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao stared deeply at Jianshen, wanting Jianshen to understand just how the Changyang clan felt in regards to him. Jianshen examined the World Gate, but he failed to find anything special about it after looking around. He also lost interest as a result. He said, "Great-grandfather, great-grandmother, let's go in." "Go in with my father and mother, Jianshen." "I'll be waiting outside," Changyang Zhu Yunkong said with a dark expression. "Why can't you come in with us, great-grandfather?" Jianshen looked at Changyang Zhu Yunkong in confusion. His main reason for visiting the clan this time around was to help Changyang Zhu Yunkong remove the seal in his head. Changyang Zhu Yunkong gently sighed and said nothing. He was in a horrible mood. "Jianshen, it's true that Yunkong can't go in. As soon as he enters the clan, the Emperor armament will lose control and lead to an utter disaster," sighed Changyang Zhu Yunxiao. Jianshen stopped talking after hearing that. Holding Huang Luan's hand, he entered the clan with the old couple. The giant world gate also vanished once they passed through it. The independent space of the Changyang clan is divided into the outer clan and inner clan. "Jianshen, I originally planned to take you directly to the inner clan, but since it's your first time coming to the Protector clan, I'll take you through the outer clan and help you understand the exact layout of the Protector clan. We're currently in the outer clan. This is where all the ordinary clansmen live. They are at the bottom of the hierarchy, and there are many of them, at least several million. They all live in this city built by this mountain. In the clan space, there are many mountain ranges and thus countless magical beasts. Many clansmen will move in groups, and once they step out of the city, they can be slain by these magical beasts at any time. A portion of the people who live in the outer clan have been weeded out from the inner clan due to their poor talent, while the other group were born there. They will all grow and cultivate in the outer clan. People of the outer clan are only able to enter the inner clan if they become a Heaven Saint Master or exhibit great talent, where the cultivation environment is much better. As a result, there are very few Heaven Saint Masters present in the outer clan since they have all been gathered by the inner clan. The members of the outer clan are no different than mercenaries on the continent. They hunt magical beasts for their monster cores so that they can cultivate and feed off their flesh. They will struggle all year round on the road to Heaven Saint Master, so quite a few outer clan members fall to the mouths of magical beasts every year. Jianshen listened to Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's explanation as he flew toward the depths of the clan. As he passed over various mountain ranges, he would find a few members of the outer clan in intense battles with magical beasts. He could not help but think back when he was no different, trying to increase his strength. He killed magical beasts for their monster cores and ate them for food, paving a path out of magical beast corpses. He would live in forests filled with danger. Only those who had experienced this themselves could truly understand the difficulties. Jianshen also saw the city mentioned by Changyang Zhu Yunxiao as he traveled. It was not an extraordinarily big city. It was covered in the marks of time, having stood for countless years. However, it continued to stand strong, and it was encased by a powerful barrier to protect the people living in it. Jianshen passed through the outer clan very soon and arrived at the inner clan. The abundance of the energy of the world in the outer clan could only be compared to some blessed lands on the Tianyuan continent, while it was several times more abundant in the inner clan. The rate of cultivation in the inner clan is equivalent to using monster cores. The energy of the world here is extremely abundant, making it several times easier to cultivate. Jianshen sighed inside when he sensed the abundance of energy in the inner clan. A vast disparity existed between the inner and outer clan. At this moment, Jianshen suddenly narrowed his eyes. Some disbelief filled his face. He saw a piece of land floating in the sky. The land was huge, several dozen kilometers across. It was as large as a king's city. People could be seen moving about everywhere among the structures constructed on the piece of land. Jian Chen could even feel a few vast presences radiating carelessly from some closed buildings, and the number was astounding. The most eye-catching part was the very center of the piece of land. A palace, several hundred meters tall, stood there quietly like a slumbering primordial beast, radiating with an invisible pressure that would shock anyone. It seemed like the ruler of the piece of land. This floating piece of land is the center of our Changyang clan. It is where all our experts gather, and the divine hall in the center is where all the great elders cultivate. Other clansmen with superb talent are also allowed in, Changyang Zhu Yunshao explained from beside Jian Chen. Dong! Suddenly, a great chime rang out. The sound spread everywhere and so did its echo, ringing magnificently through the entire space in which the clan inhabited. The moment the chime rang out, everyone on the floating piece of land stopped. They all stared at the sky in surprise. Dong! Dong! The chimes rang out 3 times consecutively, and when the third one rang out, many doors of the closed buildings suddenly opened. Various cultivators who lived in them emerged. This is the chime of the bell of grand clarity. It was made to welcome valued guests, and it hasn't rung for 100 years. I wonder which valued guest has come to visit our clan. It must be a great elder of some other protector clan. The bell has chimed 3 times. The person must be someone who can raise storms. Quite a few discussions broke out among the people who emerged. The chiming did not stop. More, humongous sound waves swept through the space, reaching every corner of the clan. Very soon, it had chimed 6 times in total. A portion of the other buildings suddenly opened after the 6th chime. Saint rulers emerged as vast amounts of energy coiled around them. They stared at the sky in surprise, and one of them softly murmured, "It's been a whole century since the bell of grand clarity has rung. I remember last time, it was due to a visit from a great elder of the Tyrant's Blade School, and it only rang 3 times, yet the bell has rung 6 whole times now." Is the guest the Grand Elder of Mercenary City? Probably only the Grand Elder of Mercenary City could make the bell ring 6 times nowadays. Has he really come to visit our clan? A sagely old man said in surprise and suspicion as his beard gently floated. Dong! This time, the bell chimed once more, summing to a total of 7 chimes. The entire clan fell into an uproar immediately after the 7th chime. At that moment, everyone who lived on the floating piece of land emerged from their residences. Even the people who had entered life or death seclusion forcefully came out, staring at the sky in shock. Dong! The giant divine hall that silently stood at the center of the land originally only had 2 small doors open on its sides, yet with the 8th chime, its main entrance slowly opened up with a great rumble and a simple but desolate presence began to radiate from the door. It seemed like it had not opened for a very long time. Afterward, 6 people of various ages stepped through the door. They all stared into the distance with a smile, before moving together. They took to the sky, going up to personally receive the guest. The 6 of them were all great elders of the clan. Dong! With the 9th chime, a large number of people had appeared on the floating piece of earth. All of them were in shock. The 9th chime of the bell of great clarity was only present in the records of the clan. It had not appeared for several tens of thousand years already, because it usually would only ring 9 times to welcome saint emperors. Chapter 1082, Making Trouble After the 9th chime. Jian Chen had arrived near the floating piece of earth with Changyang Zuyunshao. The 6 great elders of the Changyang clan stood in a row before them, smiling as they personally welcomed Jian Chen. In order to welcome Jian Chen, the Changyang clan had shown their sincerity. Not only did they chime the bell of grand clarity 9 times, even all the great elders of the clan had been mobilized. Only saint emperors could enjoy something like this. Ha ha ha, our most outstanding genius in all of history has finally returned. Changyang Xiangtian, I, Changyang Qing Yun, welcome you on behalf of all the clansmen. A merry but sagely old man chuckled at Jian Chen among the 6. He was extremely joyful. Changyang Qing Yun was the most senior member of the Qing branch, as well as the most powerful person in the entire clan. He was the only one who had reached the great perfection of Saint King in the clan, having been stuck at the bottleneck of Saint Emperor for many years now. Jian Shen, allow me to introduce the other great elders. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao stepped forward and introduced the remaining 5 people to Jian Shen. Jian Shen finally gained some understanding regarding the identities of the great elders with each introduction. Of the 7 great elders, there were 2 great elders from Zhu branch as well as the Yuan branch, while the Qing branch was the most powerful. They had 3 great elders. The great elders of the Zhu branch were the 2 people Jian Shen was already familiar with, Changyang Zhu Yunxiao and Changyang Zhu Shao. The 2 great elders from the Yuan branch were called Changyang Yuan Wuji and Changyang Yuan Zhenghua. Other than Changyang Qing Yun, Jian Shen had met the other 2 great elders of the Qing branch as well. One of them was Changyang Qing Juri, who had come to Lore City to obtain the Bright Moon Divine Hall, while the final person was the same great elder who had been trapped in the Bright Moon Divine Hall a few years ago. He was Changyang Qing Yunfeng. After Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's introduction, Changyang Qing Juri said, "Yunxiao, you should call him Changyang Shangtian. After all, that's a more suitable name. Let's discard the name Jian Shen. From today onwards, there is only Changyang Shangtian on the continent and no Jian Shen." Changyang Qing Juri's gaze towards Jian Shen hid an unperceivable coldness. "Ha ha ha, Juri, you've put it well. Since Changyang Shangtian has returned to the clan, we obviously should refer to him with his surname. Let's discard the name of Jian Shen today." Changyang Qing Yun agreed with a smile. Changyang Qing Feng Yun and the 2 great elders of the Yuan branch all nodded in agreement as well, approving of the suggestion very much. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao remained silent and did not comment, while Changyang Zhu Yunxiao furrowed his brows. A slightly troubled expression filled his face as he turned to Jian Shen, "Great-grandson, how do you feel about that?" It was very rare for Changyang Zhu Yunxiao to refer to Jian Shen like that, but he placed some stress on great-grandson this time. He seemed to be showing off to the great elders of the other 2 branches, that the unprecedented genius who had been received by the 9 chimes of the bell was his own great-grandson. Jian Shen's face remained the same, and he replied without an extra thought. "No, Jian Shen is my name. I will not be changing my name. I do not oppose the name of Changyang Shangtian, but it is only a second name." Jian Shen answered unswervingly, leaving no room for discussion. His name was not something that could be changed just because they had said so. After all, the name came from the memories of his past life. The amicable smile on the great elders' faces quickly vanished. They furrowed their brows slightly and seemed to be displeased. However, Changyang Zhu Shao stepped forward. "The name is just a way of reference, so there's no need to pay so much heed to it. Plus, the name Jian Shen has been used by my great-grandson for a very long time, and it's already renowned throughout the continent. How can it be changed so easily?" The great elders of the other 2 branches no longer dwelled on the matter with Changyang Zhu Zhao's mediation. They all showed their consent with their silence. Jian Shen was their junior, but the strength he possessed was something that even protector clans dared not to look down upon. Even when ignoring his strength and shocking talent, just the winged tiger god was enough for them to treat him carefully. Not to mention, Jian Shen had the support of Rui Jin and He Yu, 2 supreme experts who could rival Saint Emperors. "Great elders, since I have already come to the clan as promised, may I ask if the seal and great-grandfather Yinkong's head can be removed?" Jian Shen said. "There's no hurry at all. Shangtian, since you've returned to the clan, there needs to be a welcoming ceremony. We'll remove the seal after we hold this ceremony," said Changyang Qing Juri. "In my opinion, I think we should first remove the seal in my great-grandfather's head before holding this ceremony. It's not like it'll take a lot of time." Jian Shen held strong, putting Changyang Zhu Yunkong as the priority. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao and Changyang Zhu Shao both gently smiled when they heard that. Meanwhile, the 5 other great elders all became stunned. They had all become rather unhappy with Jian Shen's demanding tone time and time again. Although Jian Chen's talent was great and his strength could not be underestimated, he was still their junior after all. As great elders of a protector clan, they had never been ordered around by a junior like this. Changyang Zhu Yunshao gazed past the other great elders and a sliver of anger flickered through his eyes. He clearly said, "The 7 of us made an agreement before. If Yinkong brought Xiangtian back to the clan, the 7 of us would remove the seal from Yinkong's head. Now that Xiangtian has returned, it's about time for us to follow through with what we said. Great elders, let's go remove the seal in Konger first, or wouldn't we be eating our words?" The 2 great elders of the Yuan branch found what Changyang Zhu Yunshao said to be reasonable. As a result, one of them agreed, "All right, let's go remove the seal in Yinkong's head first." The 3 great elders of the Qing branch could only follow along since the Yuan branch had agreed. The 7 great elders all left the independent space soon after that, going to the outside world to remove the seal in Changyang Zhu Yunkong's head. Only Changyang Zhu Yeyun was left to guide Jian Chen. "Jian Chen, Huang Wan, come with me. I'll go introduce you to a few important figures of the clan," smiled Changyang Zhu Yeyun, before descending with the 2 of them. They landed on the floating piece of earth below. As soon as Jian Chen touched the ground, he was surrounded by a large group of people from all directions. Soon, they were surrounded by crowds of people as all of them curiously observed the unfamiliar Jian Chen and Huang Wan. They were suspicious. "I only recognize great-grandmother Yeyun among the 3 of them. Who are the other 2? Are the male and female standing beside Yeyun the people who were welcomed with the 9 chimes? Even the reputed grand elder of the mercenary city has only received 6 chimes to welcome him, yet these 2 unfamiliar people are worthy of 9 chimes. Are they both Saint Emperors? I haven't left the clan in a very long time, but I do know a little about the outside. It's said that the Tian Yuan continent currently has the Path Lord of Carnal Desires as its only Saint Emperor. Is this young man him, the Path Lord of Carnal Desires? Impossible, he's definitely not the Path Lord of Carnal Desires. When the Beast God continent invaded our continent on a large scale before, I personally saw the Path Lord. That young man definitely isn't him. If he's not the Path Lord, then who is he?" The surroundings buzzed with discussions as many people guessed at Jian Chen's identity. "Changyang Xiangtian, it's actually you." Suddenly, a high-pitched scream rang out from the crowd. An elegant, middle-aged woman threateningly walked over with 2 ladies who possessed sculpture's K features and seemed to be in their 20s. Jian Chen turned to the source of the sound and recognized the 3 women with a single glance. They were the people who had gone with Changyang Qing Jury to Lore City in attempt to obtain the Bright Moon Divine Hall. The 3 women paid no attention to everyone's surprised gazes. They walked up to Jian Chen. She put her hands on her hips as she said in a snobbish manner, "And who did I think it was? So it's the junior, Changyang Xiangtian, who has no regard for his seniors. Changyang Xiangtian, I never thought that you would be so rude and enter our protector clan in such an arrogant fashion. You sure have surprised me." Changyang Zhu Yeyun's face immediately sank when she heard that. She became furious, while even Jian Chen's face sank as well. Huang Wan furrowed her brows and frowned. She also seemed unhappy. "Lingshuang, do you recognize this brother? Who is he?" From behind, a hunchbacked old man asked with a husky voice. The middle-aged woman treated the old man with a lot of respect. Her expression immediately changed and she mildly said, "Uncle Fangyu, you've been in seclusion for many years so you definitely won't know about Changyang Xiangtian. Changyang Xiangtian's the offspring of Changyang Zhu Yunkong who was exiled from the clan due to his wrongdoings. At such a young age, he completely disregards his elders just because he has some strength. He's arrogant, unlike the descendant of a powerful clan at all. Last time, when I went with Great Elder Jury, who personally went to the Tian Yuan continent to visit him, this arrogant Changyang Xiangtian actually recklessly dismissed Great Elder Jury. How dare he? Yeah, Changyang Xiangtian has gone overboard. Doesn't he even think about who he is? Isn't he just a junior from someone that has been exiled from the clan? A mighty great elder of a protector clan would lower himself and travel great distances just to visit him in the tiny lore city. Sure, Changyang Xiangtian has no idea about what is good for himself, but he actually behaved so disrespectfully, dismissing great elder Juri who is admired by everyone. He cannot be forgiven, one of the younger women spoke righteously as she pointed at Jian Chen. Chapter 1083, Patience wearing thin. Everyone in the surroundings immediately gained an understanding of Jian Chen, and their gazes toward him all underwent some changes. I never thought that Changyang Xiangtian was actually like that. He doesn't even respect his elders. How dare he disrespect his elders? He even dared to dismiss great elder Juri. He cannot be forgiven. I really do wonder how such a disrespectful and immoral person can enter our protector clan. He was even personally welcomed by the great elders and received the 9 chimes of the Bell of Grand Clarity. In my opinion, Changyang Xiangtian probably has some powerful person supporting him, which is why he's able to act so unrestrained. The 9 chimes earlier were probably not for Changyang Xiangtian, but the person behind him in my opinion. Soft discussions appeared in the surroundings. All the clansmen began to point at Jian Chen after hearing the middle-aged woman's explanation and behaved as if they did not welcome him at all. There were even some people who looked at Jian Chen with hostility. Changyang Zhu Yeyun cracked very soon after listening to the discussion regarding Jian Chen. She called out, "All of you shut up. Not only is Changyang Xiangtian the most outstanding genius of our clan in all of history, he's a valued guest of the clan at the same time. Someone who is welcomed by 9 chimes of the Bell of Grand Clarity isn't someone you can make judgments on so easily. Yeyun, I know that Changyang Xiangtian's a descendant of your son Yinkong. This is why you're protecting him. To be honest, if Changyang Xiangtian, this disrespectful, arrogant person, wants to remain in the protector clan, I'll be the first one to disagree," the middle-aged woman coldly replied. She seemed to think of something and gently sighed. I wonder if the esteemed great elders have become confused today or not, to use 9 chimes of the bell to welcome a disrespectful junior who even dares to dismiss a great elder. Changyang Zhu Yeyun became so furious she began to tremble. Her face was bleak as she glared at Changyang Qing Lingshuang. She coldly said, "Lingshuang, the only thing that is respected on the Tian Yuan continent is strength. Changyang Xiangtian has the ability to dismiss anyone in the protector clan, and with his current abilities, he should be enjoying a treatment like the 9 chimes. Yeyun, don't bring up the matters of the Tian Yuan continent. Why don't you open up your eyes and look at where we are? This is the protector Changyang clan, not some Tian Yuan continent," Changyang Qing Lingshuang coldly responded. She thought inside, "Changyang Xiangtian, don't think that just because you have some abilities, you can overlook us seniors. I've already shown you enough respect back in Lore City, yet you didn't appreciate it at all and are showing no respect to us seniors again. It's not my fault if that's the case." I know you're very strong, but the protector clan is not a place where you can act without restraint." Jian Chen calmly stood with his arms crossed. He stared nonchalantly at Changyang Qing Lingshuang and said, "You're Changyang Qing Lingshuang, right?" Jian Chen's voice was rather icy, and it possessed no emotion whatsoever. However, what he said was a great provocation and was without a doubt scornful in Changyang Qing Lingshuang's ears. She immediately became enraged as she screamed, "Changyang Xiangtian, you disrespectful descendant. How dare you refer to me by my name? Are all the seniors of the clan nothing in your eyes?" Changyang Qing Lingshuang looked around at the crowd as anger filled her face. She continued, "Look, everyone, just which rule of the clan has Changyang Xiangtian broken already?" As soon as Changyang Qing Lingshuang finished talking, she became surprised. In that moment, she felt like the surrounding temperature had plummeted, as if she had been thrown into a cavern of ice. Her feet and hands immediately grew cold. The next moment, a suffocating feeling suddenly appeared. Her neck had already been tightly grasped by Jian Chen's hands, preventing her from breathing. Her face immediately became rather pale. The unpleasant sound of choking came from her throat. She had lost her ability of speech now that her neck was being tightly grasped. She felt astounded inside as she gave Jian Chen a death glare with her wide eyes. She struggled to believe just how bold Jian Chen was, to move against her even in the Protector clan. Jian Chen tightly grasped her neck as the powerful grip of his right hand crushed her neck forcefully. Without showing any mercy just because she was female, he said, "Changyang Qingling Shuang, do you really think that I won't do anything to you just because we're in the Protector clan right now? I can kill you even here." Everyone fell silent at that moment. They all stared at Jian Chen in shock as disbelief flooded their face. No one had ever thought that Jian Chen would actually be so reckless, conducting such a treacherous action before everyone as a junior. "Release Auntie Lingshuang." At this moment, the two women who always followed Changyang Qingling finally returned to their senses. Without any fear, they drew their saint weapons and stabbed at Jian Chen as hard as they could. A sharp light flickered through Jian Chen's eyes and the surrounding space froze in that instance. He used his abilities as a saint ruler to forcefully immobilize the two women. Bang! The next moment, the frozen space violently shook before suddenly shattering. The two women both flew back after vomiting a mouthful of blood. They were heavily injured and were caught by two old men in the end. The two old men were both saint rulers. After quickly checking over the two women, their expressions changed, and they furiously yelled at Jian Chen, "How dare you Changyang Shangtian? How dare you act so recklessly and injure people from the Protector clan? Everyone, let's capture this arrogant bastard." The two old men charged at Jian Chen. Powerful presences radiated from every part of them. They had no intentions of holding back. Several other saint rulers in the crowd also became furious and charged at Jian Chen. Just as a wrinkly old man wanted to charge up to teach Jian Chen a solid lesson, he was suddenly stopped by a middle-aged man. The old man could not help but call out furiously, "What are you stopping me for? Move, I want to teach that disrespectful junior a solid lesson." "Old man, it's best if you don't take part. That junior's something else. We can't afford to provoke him." The middle-aged man used a communication technique as he stared at Jian Chen in deep fear. Similar occurrences happened elsewhere. Throughout various parts of the crowd, a few other people who wanted to teach Jian Chen a lesson were stopped by their good friends. There were still some people who knew things about Jian Chen in the Protector clan. There were not many of them, but everyone who did understand Jian Chen's abilities helped out their friends. Even though a few saint rulers were stopped by their companions, 5 saint rulers, who didn't understand the depth of Jian Chen's abilities, angrily charged at him. They reached for Jian Chen with their powerful hands, trying to capture him. Meanwhile, the two old men who had caught the ladies had drawn their saint weapons. Energy rippled from the weapons as one of them stabbed at Jian Chen. The other one chopped at Jian Chen's arm that was mercilessly holding Changyang Qingling by the throat. He wanted to sever Jian Chen's entire right arm. Even though Jian Chen faced the attacks from 5 saint rulers at the same time, he did not panic at all. He remained composed, except his gaze became colder. It turned into a glare. "You want to harm me, mere saint rulers? You overestimate yourselves," Jian Chen growled. His voice was clearly heard by everyone. A few people who did not know who Jian Chen was felt shocked and they heard his cold and arrogant words. They all thought that Jian Chen was extremely arrogant inside, where he even looked down on saint rulers and even provoked them by labeling them as overestimating their own abilities. Jian Chen's grasp on Changyang Qingling neck remained tight, while his empty hand curled into a fist. Without even looking at the 5 saint rulers, he threw a punch at the saint weapon that chopped toward his arm. Jian Chen's punch possessed unbelievable speed. The instant it began moving, it temporarily disappeared. The punch contained Jian Chen's 9th heavenly layer comprehension of space, so it contained spatial force. It struck the saint weapon instantly. Bang! The collision made a muffled sound. Jian Chen's fist was like a tough piece of diamond. His fist remained unscathed after colliding, while the saint ruler was blown back along with his saint weapon. In the middle of the air, there was the sounds of bones breaking, and his right arm slumped down, powerless. The bones in his arm had been shattered by Jian Chen's punch. Jian Chen's body was tough enough to endure a full-powered attack from a Saint Ruler's Saint weapon, and not only did he come out unscathed, he had even knocked the opponent away with a single punch. Jian Chen did not hesitate after that. He continued with another punch, striking the second old man with his Saint weapon. He, too, was knocked away with his Saint weapon, ending up just like the first old man. His arm was shattered as well. Against mere Saint Rulers, Jian Chen had no need to use his sword since it would be going overboard. Just his bare hands were enough, and he would create a deterrence by just using his hands. At this moment, 3 other old men arrived beside Jian Chen. 6 powerful hands locked onto Jian Chen's joints on all his limbs, and they pulled at the same time. The old men wanted to dislocate Jian Chen's limbs. But, the next moment, all 3 of them became astounded. Shock flashed through their eyes. They suddenly discovered that they did not feel like they had grabbed a joint but a piece of steel instead. No matter how much force they used, they could not move them at all. With their strength, even if it was a piece of steel, it would immediately change shape just with their grip, yet Jian Chen's bones were actually countless times tougher than steel. Their fingers had even begun to ache slightly from their use of force, yet Jian Chen's bones did not move at all. My God, what is this body? Probably even magical beasts don't have a body this tough. The 3 old men all became extremely shocked. Chapter 1084, Inauguration. With a deep bellow, chaotic force surged within Jian Chen and a powerful force shot out. It shook off the 3 Saint Rulers that had grabbed him. Jian Chen exploded with the strength of the 3rd layer of the chaotic body. It was equivalent to the 3rd heavenly layer of Saint King, far greater than anything Saint Rulers could withstand. The 3 Saint Rulers all shot back as they vomited blood, now heavily injured. A few people immediately flew out of the crowd to catch the injured people. When they checked their injuries, their expressions changed in surprise. Do you really think that I won't do anything to you just because we're in the Protector clan? I'll spare your lives this time considering we are in the same clan and come from the same ancestor. If something like this happened on the Tianyuan continent, your lives would be dancing at my fingertips, Jian Chen coldly said as he glanced past the 5 Saint Rulers. He showed them no respect, nor did he bother to ask which branch they were from. To Jian Chen, he recognized no one else in the Protector clan other than Changyang Zhu Yunshao and Changyang Zhu Yeyun. With a wave of his hand, Changyang Qinglingshuang was thrown toward the crowd like the carcass of a pig. His eyes so cold and sharp they appeared like knives, as Jian Chen said, Changyang Qinglingshuang, it's best if you hold back your pride as a member of a Protector clan and not flaunt your seniority. Otherwise, I can kill you even if you have the Path Lord of Carnal Desires supporting you. No one went to catch Changyang Qinglingshuang. She hit the ground heavily in the end and became caked in soil. She was reduced to a rather horrible condition. Although it was packed with people right now, only a deathly silence existed. No one said anything, all stunned by Jian Chen's strength and arrogance. 5 Saint Rulers had personally moved together, yet they were injured in such an easy fashion. They were even more fragile than tofu. Moreover, the one who did all that did not even fear the Path Lord of Carnal Desires, which had shocked all of them deeply. As one of the Protector clans, the Changyang clan was one of 10 most powerful clans on the Tianyuan continent. They were in existence close to being divine, dignified and supreme. They were admired and looked up to by people. They had welcomed a junior today with 9 chimes of the bell of grand clarity, so was that junior really a saint emperor? Changyang Qinglingshuang was extremely prideful since young. Coupled with her impressive talent, she was greatly favored by Changyang Qingyun, and along with the fact that the Qing branch was the strongest of the 3, she believed that she towered over everyone else. She immediately lost her rationality due to anger. She had been embarrassed before everyone, so she obviously ignored Jian Chen's threats, screaming out, Changyang Xiangtian, how dare you lay your hands on a senior? Where are the disciplinary elders? Where are they? Why don't you quickly tie up this disrespectful person and hand him over to the great elders for punishment? Changyang Qinglingshuang was no longer as glorious as before. She was currently disheveled while her clothes were soiled, even ripped in some places. She seemed more like a beggar. A middle-aged saint ruler covered her mouth, but his hand was flung away mercilessly. She was like an angered lion right now, except she had yet to charge up to Jian Chen and maul him. 6 well-dressed, dignified, and righteous old men walked out of the crowd together. They stared at Jian Chen with mixed emotions and felt troubled. The 6 of them were disciplinary elders of the Changyang clan. They were all saint rulers of the 9th heavenly layer, and their status and authority was only second to the great elders. Disciplinary elders, why don't you quickly punish this disrespectful clansman? Changyang Qinglingshuang had become irrational from her anger, but she still knew that she was not Jian Chen's opponent. As a result, she yelled at the 6 old men. The disciplinary elders all sighed inside. They understood Jian Chen extremely well. When he had returned from the Sea Realm a few years ago, they had all personally witnessed the great disturbances that had occurred on the continent. They knew that he was young, but he was someone that even the 10 protector clans wished not to offend. They obviously dared not to intentionally offend Jian Chen. The disciplinary elders arrived before Changyang Qinglingshuang, and one of them extended a finger to her neck. She was silenced, and the old man then gently sighed, "Lingshuang, how can you offend a valued guest that was welcomed by 9 chimes from the bell of grand clarity? Today, it is all your fault. Once the great elders return, we will tell them what has happened." The 6 of them did not say the same thing to the 5 injured saint rulers, however. They were not thick-headed, they knew exactly who they could afford to offend and who not to. 7 vast presences appeared in the distance. The 7 great elders of the clan had all returned from outside, arriving on the floating piece of earth very quickly. Looking around, they immediately discovered that something was off. One of them asked with a deep voice, "What has happened?" The 6 disciplinary elders immediately reported to them about what had happened. They reported Jian Chen's deeds as lightly as possible, placing almost all the blame on Changyang Qinglingshuang. The 6 disciplinary elders were normally just and straightforward people, but they knew how to talk at moments like this. Changyang Qinglingshuang stamped her feet and became flustered on one side. Her face was filled with an unwillingness for this to occur and a feeling of being wronged. It was just a pity that she could not talk and that she was immobilized by 2 disciplinary elders beside her. She received no chance to challenge what they had said. Changyang Qingyun slightly frowned after the disciplinary elders gave their report. However, before he could speak out, Changyang Zhu Shao growled, "Changyang Qinglingshuang, you cannot be forgiven for treating a valued guest like this. Disciplinary elders, immediately imprison her in the 1,000-year ice cavern for 100 years. "Yes, sir." The disciplinary elders bowed in response. The 3 great elders of the Qing branch frowned even more, Changyang Qingyun in particular. A sliver of anger had even appeared in his eyes. Changyang Qinglingshuang was one of the most talented members of his Qing branch. Imprisoning her in the 1,000-year ice cavern was like robbing her of 100 years of cultivation. The 7 others who dared to attack the valued guest will be imprisoned for 100 years too, Changyang Zhu Shao continued. He was extremely solemn, to the point where he could not be denied. In the end, Changyang Qinglingshuang, the 2 women who followed her, and the 5 saint rulers, all suffered severe punishments. Those who wanted to punish Jian Chen but were stopped in the end all sighed inside for their luck. "Great-grandson, are you satisfied with this sentence?" Changyang Zhu Zhao's seriousness vanished as he smiled amicably at Jian Chen. Jian Chen slightly nodded. "Has the seal and great-grandfather Yunkong's head been removed?" "My great-grandson, it's all because of you that the seal torturing Kong for so many years has been successfully removed. From today on, Kong can finally continue his cultivation." Changyang Zhu Yunshao chuckled aloud. He was relieved. After talking some more, Jian Chen was brought to the divine hall by the great elders. Huang Wan was left outside with Changyang Zhu Yeyun. Soon after, a great voice boomed from within, echoing through the entire independent space. From today on, Changyang Zhu Xiangtian of the Zhu branch will be a great elder of our Changyang clan, the 8th great elder. The announcement was made by the 7 great elders together. They declared Jian Chen's identity, but they added the extra character, Zhu, in Changyang Xiangtian to indicate he was a member of the Zhu branch. Once the news broke out, the clan was immediately thrown into an uproar. Various discussions broke out everywhere. Though, around half of them were objections. After all, Jian Chen was still an outsider in the eyes of many people. Immediately, a group of people who didn't approve of Jian Chen's inauguration as a great elder gathered together, objecting the matter outside the majestic divine hall. However, their objections were clearly nothing before the 7 great elders. They weren't able to do anything at all. The 7 great elders stepped forward together to quell the crowd. The 7 great elders possessed absolute authority in the Changyang clan. They represented everything. As long as they all agreed, they could decide everything for the clan. Jian Chen possessed the strength of a 7th heavenly layer Saint King, and by his side stood the winged tiger god as well as Rui Jin and He Yu, 2 supremely powerful experts. It was impossible for the protector Changyang clan to not pour everything they had to pull someone like that to their side. Once Jian Chen became a member of the protector clan, the great power in his hands would also fall into the hands of the protector clan. Not to mention, Jian Chen's fiancée, Yu Yu, had been accepted by Fairy Hao Yu as a disciple. She had obtained the Bright Moon Divine Hall, and her future accomplishments were unfathomable. On the top floor of the Divine Hall was a grand and majestic hall. It was well decorated, where the level of extravagance far exceeded the imperial palaces of the 3 great empires. This was the ancestral hall of the protector Changyang clan. The hall was filled with memorial plates, reaching an innumerable about. All of these people were former great elders of the clan, and there was no lack in saint emperors among them. However, all of them had passed away already. Jian Chen stood with the 7 great elders in a row before the vast numbers of memorial plates. They paid respects to the people that the plates represented since they were all ancestors of the clan. Jian Chen had expected this to happen before he had come to the clan. He did not want to take up the position of great elder in the clan, but a single sentence from Changyang Zhu Yunkong changed his mind. Great-grandson, you are a member of our Zhu branch. You will become the glory of our branch. Jian Chen changed his mind because of that exact sentence. He did not reject his inauguration as great elder, as all of it was to glorify his great-grandfather Changyang Zhu Yunkong. Alright, the ceremony has come to completion. Great-grandson, we should take you to the library of the clan next. All the records collected throughout the years by the clan are there, including many matters regarding secrets that happened in the past. There are also various cultivation methods, saint-tier battle skills, and the experience and comprehensions left behind by ancestors. Now that you've become a great elder of the clan, you have the right to view these records, smiled Changyang Zhu Shao. He felt glad inside. Jian Chen's interest was piqued. He was extremely interested in the records of secrets from the past. He did not really care about the cultivation methods or saint-tier battle skills since they were not suitable for him at all. Jian Chen did not visit the library immediately. He said, Great elders, someone has planted an ancient secret technique on Luoner that ties Luoner's fate with his own. May I ask if you have a method to remove it? Chapter 1085, Treasure of the Protector Clans. There are countless ancient secret techniques, as well as many that share the same name. Some are extremely simple while others are extraordinarily profound. Xiangtian, let's check and see what ancient secret technique it is first, said Changyang Yuan Wuji. Jian Chen left the ancestral hall with the 7 great elders and invited Huang Luan inside. They gathered in the discussion hall on the first floor. The 7 great elders gathered around Huang Luan as they all pointed a finger at her head. They used a secret technique to sense the technique embedded in Huang Luan's soul. A while later, the 7 of them opened their eyes simultaneously. They all began to frown slightly. This ancient secret technique is quite complicated. It was planted directly onto her soul and has almost fused with it. It's extremely difficult to remove, Changyang Yuan Zhenghua gently sighed. He was filled with a sense of helplessness. Does that mean even you cannot help me remove this secret technique? Jian Chen became rather flustered inside. Everyone fell silent for a while before Changyang Zhu Shao said, I remember an ancient secret technique called the Void Soul Transcendence that can remove this secret technique. Though, the ancient secret technique is just too profound, so I don't know it. A sliver of despair appeared in Jian Chen's eyes. I just happen to know the Void Soul Transcendence. Xiangtian, why don't you let me try it? Changyang Qingyun suddenly said. He was very calm right now as he gently smiled. He seemed to have completely forgotten about the displeasures from before. Jian Chen hesitated slightly, before allowing Changyang Qingyun to try as he had no other choice in the end. However, he mentioned that he wanted to watch over the entire process. Jian Chen, breaking ancient secret techniques planted directly on the soul is extremely dangerous. I need to devote all my focus onto it, and I cannot risk any disturbances, or the consequences will be unthinkable. It's best if you wait outside for the safety of your beloved. Moreover, you're a great elder of the clan now. We're all one big family, and I'm your great-grandfather by seniority as well. Don't you trust your great-grandfather? Changyang Qingyun turned down Jian Chen's request to watch over on one side, before entering a room in the Divine Hall with Huang Wan. Jian Chen worried for Huang Wan, so he immediately extended his presence beyond his body to follow Changyang Qingyun. However, every inch off the Divine Hall was filled with the Divine Hall's power, so Jian Chen's presence could not extend past the obstructions. It was suppressed. Helpless inside, Jian Chen could only sit and wait there. The other great elders also stayed there with him. Only Changyang Qingjuri left due to some matters. Xiangtian, don't worry. Great Elder Qin Yun's abilities are fantastic. He's reached great perfection for many years already, so he can be described as someone with a foot planted in Saint Emperor already. With him acting personally, even if Huang Wan's seal can't be broken, she'll still come out unscathed, comforted Changyang Yuan Zhenghua. He had no negative opinion of Jian Chen. Jian Chen waited for 3 days, but Huang Wan and Changyang Qingyun did not emerge. He did not even receive a single piece of news, so, in the end, out of boredom, he was taken around the clan again by Changyang Zhu Yunshao. Changyang Zhu Yunshao led Jian Chen around on the floating piece of earth, explaining to him a few rules of the clan as well as some interesting events that occurred in the past. The two of them came across many clansmen of the inner clan, who call out and bowed to Changyang Zhu Yunshao. Although Jian Chen was also a great elder, no one showed any respect to him. Jian Chen did not care at all. He continued beside Changyang Zhu Yunshao and listened to his explanations. Mum, is that person beside Great Elder Yunshao the outsider, Changyang Xiangtian? Jian Chen heard a young voice at this moment. Several hundred meters to his left, there was a boy, roughly 6 or 7 years of age, pointing at Jian Chen as he spoke to a middle-aged woman. Shoo! Qing Lin, be quiet, or you'll suffer a similar severe punishment. The middle-aged woman quickly covered the boy's mouth before glancing in Jian Chen's direction in fear. The boy was young and fearless, so he rejected what his woman said. He righteously said, Mum, I'm not scared. Great-grandfather Tianying was injured by Changyang Xiangtian, and then locked up. Changyang Xiangtian is a bad guy. He's a big bad guy. He's not good. Mm. The boy got louder as he spoke, but the woman became quite terrified. She quickly covered his mouth and left with him in a hurry. Jian Chen glanced at the boy before sighing inside. In front, there were a few young Heaven Saint Masters that walked past as well. They seemed to be roughly Jian Chen's age. I greet the great elder, the young man all bowed courteously to Changyang Zhu Yunshao, but their gazes toward Jian Chen were not so kind. The Protector clan was separated from the world, so almost all the younger members of the clan had not stepped upon the Tianyuan continent. Only a portion of the senior members had gone out, so they had no clue about the brutality and laws of survival outside. As a result, they did not accept that strength reigned supreme. With their understanding, respect was based on seniority and had nothing to do with personal strength. They all disagreed very much with the fact that Jian Chen had become a great elder at such a young age. At Jian Chen's age, any single person in the inner clan was his senior. Great-grandson, don't get too mad. The Protector clan has been separated from the world for too long, which has caused the members of the younger generation to deteriorate. Looks like choosing to become a hermit clan was not a smart choice. We should let these juniors wander the Tianyuan continent more often and witness the brutal world. Changyang Zhu Yunshao sighed. Jian Chen paid no mind to them. Although he was someone who would always collect his debts, he was not petty. What's that place? Suddenly, Jian Chen's eyes froze, and he focused on something in the distance. Within a mountain range beyond the floating island, the space constantly twisted as a vast, devastating aura radiated. That's the forbidden grounds of our clan, the place where the Emperor armament is nourished. There are no clansmen that can approach it except for the great elders. Let's go and have a look. With that, Changyang Zhu Yunshao lead Jian Chen in that direction. The forbidden grounds are surrounded by layer upon layer of formations for protection. They were cast down by previous saint emperors, used specifically restraining the emperor armament as well as the powerful sword qi and pressure that radiates from it all year round, Changyang Zhu Yunshao explained as he moved. Jian Chen passed through the many formations, and as soon as he arrived inside, a vast pressure swept forward. Coupled with it was surging sword qi, which made him shudder inside. At the center of the forbidden grounds was a huge ancient sword stabbed into the ground. The tip of the sword was buried and the hilt pointed to the sky. It possessed a supreme presence, as if it could split the sky and rival the heavens. It was filled with a domineering presence. Jian Chen became extremely serious as he stood before the emperor armament. He said with a deep voice, "What a powerful emperor armament. My emperor armament is just too weak. Before it, I even feel that I have already been defeated. Unbelievable." Changyang Zhu Yunshao examined the emperor armament with mixed emotions and sighed. This emperor armament existed when our clan was first founded. It was left behind by the founder, our first saint emperor. It has already existed for more than 1,000,000 years. An extremely ancient technique was left behind with the founder's emperor armament. It recorded the method to nourish the emperor armament. Once every saint emperor of our clan passes away from cultivation, they will leave behind their emperor armaments and fuse them with the emperor armament through the method left behind by the founder. After countless years, we have never been without saint emperors except in recent years. At our peak, we even had more than 10 of them existing at the same time, so over 100 saint emperors have appeared in our clan's history. That means that over 100 emperor armaments have been fused with the founder's emperor armament. Its power is unimaginable now and requires multiple saint emperors to control it, but even with that, it's impossible to use all of its power. At the same time, they will sustain extremely severe backlash that's extremely difficult to recover from. If we control it for too long, everyone's life may even fall into danger, and we might even die as a result. Jian Chen was deeply shocked with that. He felt extremely fearful of the emperor armaments of the protector clans. They could only be controlled by multiple saint kings, and even with all those saint kings, not all of its power could be used. The controllers would even suffer severe backlashes, so Jian Chen struggled to imagine just how powerful the emperor armaments really were. His own emperor armament immediately paled in comparison. They were both emperor armaments, but the disparity in power was just too vast. These emperor armaments are the treasure of the protector clans. They are the trump cards of the protector clans, as well as our ability to deal with saint emperors. It is also what protects us, Changyang Zhu Yunshao sighed emotionally. I wonder if the origin energy armor on Rui Jin and He Yu can withstand the emperor armaments if the protector clans use it despite the consequences. Jian Shen wondered inside. He had no idea, but he made up his mind at that moment. He would never, ever agitate the emperor armaments of the protector clans unless he had no other choice. Jian Shen felt a lot of fear for the emperor armaments of the protector clans. Before them, even divine halls could be cleaved into two. Only saint emperors could withstand the power. Jian Shen left the forbidden grounds with Changyang Zhu Yunshao, returning to the divine hall once more. Huang Wan remained in the room with Changyang Qingyun. No one knew whether the secret technique in her could be removed. Jian Shen entered the library all by himself and made his way through the section where the cultivation methods and saint-tier battle skills were stored. He was heading to where the ancient records were kept. Chapter 1086, Ancient Records. There were many ancient records, all stored neatly on the bookshelves. Each book was made from high-class beast leather as the power of the divine hall circulated within. It provided 2 layers of protection for the books, so they could last for a very long time. Even though that was the case, many books still possessed some wear. Even though they were made from high-class beast leather and were protected by the divine hall's power, they had begun to yellow, like an old man approaching his end. Everything major that had happened since ancient times had been recorded, along with some unprecedented occurrences and extremely famous figures. This included records regarding the greatest human expert, Mo Tianyun, the winged tiger god of the beast god continent, the war god Ergens of the 100 races, and the sea goddess. Jian Shen had always been extremely curious regarding the matters that had occurred between the 4 of them, so he began to flip through their information first. He looked up Mo Tianyun first. He wanted to learn about Mo Tianyun's growth. He must have had a glorious record of battles as an unparalleled legend. However, Jian Shen suddenly discovered that there were no such records after flipping through them. Mo Tianyun's name rocked through the world and the 100 races invaded since he had fended them off. However, before the invasion, Jian Shen actually found no information regarding him at all, as if he had truly emerged from a fairy tale. Also, as soon as he had appeared, his strength was unparalleled. No one was his opponent, and he was invincible. He blocked the experts of the 100 races that had forced the humans to retreat all by himself, killing many of members of the 100 races before going to outer space and guarding the Tian Yuan continent as a form of deterrence. Afterward, the war god of the 100 races, Ergens, stepped into outer space with his golden battle axe. His battle intent flooded the world, causing the sky to shatter. He was embroiled in a grand battle with Mo Tianyun. During that battle, both the heaven and earth cracked. The entire continent shook and lost 1/10 of its area, transforming into the sea. In the end, Ergens retreated in defeat. During that age, the world was chaotic. Saint emperors emerged one after another, while the humans, magical beasts, and members of the 100 races warred constantly. There were countless casualties. The 100 races originally inhabited the beast god continent, before they were chased out by the winged tiger god and the experts of the magical beasts. That was how the ancient war began. The 100 races first retaliated against the magical beasts, and after no success, they turned to the humans. They wanted to occupy the Tian Yuan continent, but they were all stopped by Mo Tianyun. Ergens clashed with Mo Tianyun many times, and the last time they fought was at the center of the continent. It was the most intense battle. Mo Tianyun displayed his vast abilities while Ergens used his great mysteries of war. The pressure was so great that even saint emperors could not withstand it, forcing them to retreat over 10,000 kilometers away. However, the battle ended extremely quickly as well. The moment it began, Ergens tried to retreat in defeat once more. He suffered unprecedented injuries, never daring to step upon the Tian Yuan continent again. A bottomless pit had formed below their battleground, and Mo Tianyun used his abilities to move the earth, filling it in. He founded Mercenary City there. Jian Shen gasped inside as he read up to that point. The moment Mo Tianyun injured the war god, he had suffered unprecedented injuries. Just how great was he? Jian Shen even seemed to be able to imagine Mo Tianyun standing in a heroic posture as his white robes ruffled in the wind. The bottomless pit definitely is the tunnel to the world of forsaken saints, Jian Shen murmured as he held on to the book. He continued to browse through it. After retreating from the battle with Mo Tianyun, the 100 races did not give up. The war god then led his clansmen to attack the magical beasts again, leading to great casualties on both sides. After several battles, the war god was slain by the winged tiger god in the end. Golden blood splattered across the earth. From then on, the 4 supreme experts of the ancient times turned into 3. It was rumored that the war god's body would not rot even though he had died. It would exist forever, so the experts of the 100 races retrieved it along with the war god's blood. They wanted to use an absolute technique to revive him. But, in the end, the winged tiger god descended and took away the war god's corpse, interfering with their plan of revival. He used his great abilities to seal the war god's corpse into a bleak continent, and the war between the 3 races ended there. Mo Tianyun became the city lord of Mercenary City and faded from the center of attention over the next few decades. Afterward, he vanished, only leaving behind one message. He had already secretly struck an agreement with the winged tiger god. The Tianyuan continent and the beast god continent would never go to war against each other. Obviously, the ancient winged tiger god became the god among magical beasts, leading the entire race. 100 years later, a phenomenon occurred on Dragon Island and the winged tiger god also disappeared with the divine Phoenix clan and Dragon clan. No one knew where they vanished to, forming an unsolvable mystery. Jian Shen did not find any information regarding the winged tiger god's life in ancient times. It seemed to have appeared out of nowhere, possessing supreme strength as soon as it had appeared. It was unlike the white tiger, who was known throughout the world before it had even matured. At that time, the war between the 3 races had yet to erupt. The magical beasts inhabited the same continent as the humans. The current Cross Mountains was the location where the magical beasts lived. As soon as the winged tiger god appeared, it led the magical beasts out of Cross Mountains to the beast god continent where they drove the 100 races away. This led to the war between the 3 races. Afterward, Jian Shen checked on the records regarding the war god Ergens. They said that he was born into an ordinary farmer's family, and golden blood was discovered as soon as he was born. He also possessed great strength, virtually the same as Tai Ta in his youth. Soon after, all the hall elders of the 100 races gathered. They invited the young Ergens to the great war god hall excitedly and courteously. After that, there was no sound of him. This lasted for 500 years. Then, Ergens emerged from the war god hall. At that time, he had already surpassed Saint Emperor. He grew at a stunning rate where his name rang through the world. As soon as he emerged, he became the leader of the war god hall. Afterward, Jian Shen checked up on the sea goddess. Perhaps due to the fact that the sea race was the only race that did not take part in the war, there was even less information regarding her, just a few lines. Jian Shen then found a record regarding the beast god hall. It mentioned that on the 99th floor of the hall was the first winged tiger god's legacy. Only magical beasts with the bloodline of the winged tiger god could enter and obtain it. Though, no one knew whether it was actually true or not. Very soon, Jian Shen found another ancient record regarding the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall. It reported the organization as mysterious and powerful and that it had always remained in the Arctic. The Ice Goddess Hall had existed for an extremely long time. The first Saint Emperor of the clan had once written that in ancient times, before the 10 protector clans had existed, before the war between the 3 races had erupted, the Ice Goddess Hall had quietly stood in the Arctic for countless years. In the eyes of the ancient protector clans, the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall was a powerful and mysterious force. They never moved on the Tianyuan continent, nor did they interfere with any conflict on the continent. Even when intense battles erupted during the War of the 3 Races, the Ice Goddess Hall continued to act as it wished, remaining in the Arctic. If the Ice Goddess Hall was weak, then so be it. However, Jian Shen had also found the messages from many previous saint emperors to never provoke the ice goddess Hall. Jian Shen sat on the ground as he slowly flipped through the ancient record regarding the ice goddess Hall. He reached the end very quickly, which suddenly made him narrow his mind. He discovered at the end of all that was a newly scribed paragraph. The Arctic Ice Goddess Hall descended on Lore City on the XXX of XXX, year XXX. Snow filled the skies, summer turned to winter and ice sealed up a radius of 10,000 kilometers. The information near the end included records of the Holy Maiden of the Ice Goddess Hall, Changyang Mingyue. It included when she was born, what she went through as she grew up, and so on. Jian Shen slowly closed the book as he constantly thought about the Ice Goddess Hall. It was just a pity that the records did not contain many details about the origins of the Ice Goddess Hall, shrouding it in mystery. Just what kind of an organization are you? Jian Shen was filled with suspicion inside. He knew from the records that for all the years the Ice Goddess Hall had existed, it had only descended once, and it was for his sister, Changyang Mingyue. Since both Mo Tianyun and the winged tiger god of the ancient times were born on the Tianyuan continent, why is there no record of you two growing up at all? Has it all been forcefully erased? Jian Shen pondered. Out of the 4 supreme experts of the ancient times, the war god died in battle. The sea goddess passed away due to age and now exists in the form of a soul because of the winged tiger god's kindness. Yet the winged tiger god who is powerful enough to help the sea goddess has disappeared with the dragon and phoenix clans. And the winged tiger god disappeared at a similar time to Senior Mo Tianyun. Did the two of you disappear at the same time? Did you two really die, or did you go to another place as described by Shaoling? Mysteries blossomed in Jian Shen's head at that moment. Dragon Island was occupied by magical beasts. It was the territory of the winged tiger god. In ancient times, the Yinyang Saint Rock fell on Dragon Island, and then it was moved through the void to a distant region of space by Mo Tianyun and his powerful formations. Afterward, Dragon Island underwent a great change, while the winged tiger god, the dragon clan, the phoenix clan, and Mo Tianyun vanished without any news, causing many people to believe that they all died. In that world created by the Yinyang Saint Rock, the sliver of consciousness left behind by Mo Tianyun recognized the sword spirits. Therefore, it's extremely likely that Senior Mo Tianyun came from the same world as the sword spirits. Jian Shen deduced inside. Afterward, his eyes widened and an audacious possibility crossed his mind. Maybe Mo Tianyun did not die, and the winged tiger god did not die either. They just had some unknown connection, leaving behind the sea goddess while they disappeared themselves, maybe leaving for another place as companions. Chapter 1087, Comprehending the Great Divination Technique, and the 10 protector clans of the Tianyuan continent all have an emperor armament similar to the one in the Changyang clan. They've all been passed down since the ancient times, left behind by their ancestors. Jian Shen learned many secrets from the records. Afterward, Jian Shen checked on some comprehensions and experiences for cultivation left behind by some seniors. He left after staying there for 2 days. Although they were invaluable, equivalent to someone's legacy, they were mostly of no help to him. All they provided him with was some information that he could draw on, broadening his understanding. In the end, Jian Shen visited the section where the battle skills and cultivation methods were stored. He discovered several dozen heaven-tier battle skills and cultivation methods, as well as a few saint-tier cultivation methods sealed by a force and a few stone carvings of saint-tier battle skills. Jian Shen pulled out a brush and ink from his space ring and copied down a few heaven-tier battle skills and cultivation methods before leaving the library. Although they were useless to him, they were invaluable to the Changyang clan in Lore City and the Flame Mercenaries. Jian Shen did not bother with the saint-tier cultivation techniques. They were sealed up by an ancient secret technique and could only be unlocked with a corresponding method. He could not read them at all. On the other hand, the saint-tier battle skills were carved into stone tablets and required comprehension. Unless he could take the tablets away, there was no method of transcribing their content. The section containing the ancient secret techniques was enveloped by a layer of the Divine Hall's powerful energy. It had basically become an independent world, so Jian Shen could not enter even though he was interested. Jian Shen returned to the discussion hall of the Divine Hall after emerging from the library. He then proceeded to Changyang Zhu Yunshao to hear about Huang Wan. My great-grandson, Qing Yun, has yet to come out. He probably hasn't removed the ancient secret technique completely. After all, any secret technique that affects the soul is relatively difficult to deal with. Any carelessness can lead to severe consequences. Just wait for a few more days. You cannot hurry this, sighed Changyang Zhu Yunshao. Helpless, Jian Shen could only remain in the Protector clan. During that time, he paced about outside the room, but he could not check on the situation inside at all. His presence still could not pass through the walls of the Divine Hall. Jian Shen found an empty room and planned to go into seclusion for a few days due to boredom. In a room with only a ray of light, Jian Shen sat on the ground. With the flip of his hand, he pulled out the Octaterra Divine Hall from his space ring. Divine halls could only be created by Saint Emperors, and they would fuse in their comprehension of space. This was why divine halls could shrink and expand. It currently stood in Jian Shen's hand as the size of a fist. The divine hall's been reduced to ruins by Kaiser of the Beast God continent. Its power is still circulating inside, currently recovering automatically, but it'll probably take a very long time at this rate. Jian Shen stared at the ruined divine hall as he felt pity inside. Two jade-white, glistening skeletons of Saint Emperors sat in the divine hall. They were left behind by the second and third masters of the Octaterra Divine Hall. Each skeleton hid extremely pure energy, and Jian Shen could even vaguely feel a vast and profound presence in each skeleton. They were the mysteries of the world, having fused perfectly with the pure energy within. Jian Shen understood that absorbing the energy within the skeletons would also lead to the comprehension of the mysteries of the world that was in the energy. However, the comprehension would depend on luck and ability. These two skeletons are treasures that cannot be purchased with money, especially on this continent. If a Saint Emperor's skeleton appeared, probably even the Protector clans wouldn't be able to sit still. They'll definitely go and try take it for themselves, murmured Jian Shen. He knew the value of the skeletons extremely well. The energy required for the fourth layer of the chaotic body is much more than the third. Even if I absorb both skeletons, it won't be enough for me to reach the fourth layer. At the same time, I cannot reach Saint King with my comprehension, so the mysteries of the world would be wasted for nothing. If I give it to Ming Dong or great-grandfather Bai Hai, their strength will definitely skyrocket and reach Saint King in the shortest time possible. That's the best way to use the Saint Emperor skeletons. Jian Shen put the divine hall away. He did not plan on using the skeletons for himself. Jian Shen then pulled out an ancient book from his space ring. It was the great divination technique he had obtained from Old Man Situ all those years ago. The great divination technique was known as a book of a way to the sword spirits. It belonged to the way of divination. It was an extremely special and obscure way that was very difficult to comprehend, and incredibly few people would comprehend it. However, its wonder and uniqueness was beyond imagination. It could predict the future, show the truths of the world, perceive the mysteries of the universe, and exhibit the origin of everything. Jian Shen opened the book and began reading it diligently. He was very interested in this book of a way that could forecast the future. The method to practice the great divination technique was not recorded in words. Instead, it was constructed from a few simple-looking but profound lines and images. The lines and images seemed to fuse with the world and the ways. Although they were simple, they gave people a feeling of possessing everything. The shape and trajectory of every line and image seemed to demonstrate the beginning of the universe. Jian Shen became deeply drawn in very soon, submerged in the mysteries of the great divination technique. At that moment, Jian Shen seemed to see a limitless universe, and he also seemed to see a world of chaos. He seemed to see the birth of the universe as well, and in a daze, he seemed to understand something, yet he understood nothing. It was intangible, where he could not grasp it even when he tried. The great divine technique was extremely profound. With just a few lines, it drew Jian Chen's conscience to a different world. In the blink of an eye, half a month passed. Jian Chen remained in the room, comprehending the great divination technique. He was deeply submerged into it, where he did not stir even once. During this period of time, Changyang Zhu Yunshao and Changyang Zhu Shao visited him many times. Seeing how he was cultivating, they did not disturb him and silently left. In another room of the divine hall, the ruddy, sage-like Changyang Qin Yun sat with Huang Wan. Both of them had their eyes closed and were completely serious. Changyang Qin Yun's finger remained planted between Huang Wan's eyebrows. Powerful pulses of energy were emitted from the tip of the finger as the profound presence of the mysteries of the world and a desolate, mysterious presence surged into Huang Wan's forehead. Suddenly, Changyang Qin Yun snapped open his eyes. An odd gleam appeared in his eyes as they were widely opened. They seemed fierce. Break! Changyang Qin Yun bellowed and used an ancient secret technique with his strength at the great perfection of Saint King. The two presences stabbed into the center of Huang Wan's eyebrows like a sword, forcing out the seal on Huang Wan's soul. Afterward, the mysterious, desolate presence immediately surrounded it. Using the void soul transcendence, it burned the seal planted on Huang Wan's soul into nothingness. Now that the seal on Huang Wan was removed, Changyang Qin Yun could not help but deeply exhale. He softly sighed, "I finally removed that seal after so much effort." But soon after speaking, a sinister smile appeared on his face. He seemed to be fiendish, conflicting with his sagely appearance. "I can't just help you remove this ancient secret technique for nothing. There has to be something in it for me as well." Changyang Qin Yun bit the tip of his tongue and drew out a droplet of essence blood. Forming a seal with his hands, he used an ancient secret technique to refine the blood, which then entered between Huang Wan's eyebrows in the form of a wisp. It fused with her soul, becoming a part of her soul. Huang Wan felt nothing with her eyes closed. She had fallen unconscious long ago, losing all sense of the outside world. After all that, Changyang Qin Yun smiled when he succeeded. However, he returned to how he acted before very quickly. He gently extended a finger to Huang Wan's forehead again and woke her up. Huang Wan slowly opened her eyes. She looked at Changyang Qin Yun in confusion first, but a gleam of light flashed through her eyes soon after. She politely asked, "Senior, may I ask if the ancient secret technique has been removed?" Changyang Qin Yun smiled amicably. His smile was filled with benevolence as he slowly said, "It's been removed successfully. Girl, you don't need to worry about it anymore." "Thank you, Senior." Huang Wan rejoiced and immediately thanked Changyang Qin Yun after standing up. Jian Chen quickly learned about how Huang Wan's seal was removed. He immediately stopped his comprehension of the great divination technique to meet up with her. The great divination technique really was profound. Even though Jian Chen had entered such a wondrous state, he had still failed to comprehend the technique. However, he did seem to vaguely understand some of the laws within the technique. Huang Wan sweetly smiled to Jian Chen in the hall. "Jian Chen, the ancient secret technique planted on my soul has finally been removed." Rejoicing, Jian Chen wholeheartedly thanked Changyang Qin Yun. After talking a little more, he bid farewell to everyone. He wanted to leave the Protector clan. "Xiangtian, you're leaving so soon. Why don't you stay for a few more days?" Changyang Qin Yun urged. "I still have matters to attend to, so I don't have much time on hand," said Jian Chen. "Go deal with your important matters first since you need to attend to them. Though, do come back and visit the clan whenever you have time." Changyang Zhu Yunshao and Changyang Zhu Shao walked in from outside. They spoke for Jian Chen. Changyang Qin Yun became hesitant. He said in the end, "Xiangtian, since you have matters at hand, you should go. Though, we do hope you can leave the winged tiger god with the clan. We will use everything we have to raise it and provide it with an even greater space to grow in." Jian Chen's expression changed slightly. He did not think that the Changyang clan would still be thinking of the winged tiger god and that they would try to take it right now. I thank you on Xiaobai's behalf, Elder Qin Yun. However, Xiaobai doesn't need any assistance in any aspects right now, Jian Chen declined without any hesitation. The Changyang clan had existed for over 1,000,000 years. They possessed countless ancient secret techniques, so he worried that they would use one of them to control Xiaobai if he left the white tiger here or do detrimental things to the white tiger. Chapter 1088, Gui Hai Dao, 1, Shangtian, you're now a great elder of our clan. You must consider the clan in anything and everything you do. I hope you can consider the future of the clan. If the winged tiger god is raised as the guardian beast of our clan, our strength will instantaneously surpass the 9 other clans. Of course, if you let the winged tiger god successfully mature under the 2 great magical beast experts, there's a great possibility that it will bring disaster to the continent. Do you really want to be condemned by the entire continent for all of eternity? Changyang Qin Yun sternly argued. Elder Qin Yun, I am very grateful that you removed the seal within Wanner, but there is no room for discussion in regards to the winged tiger god, Jian Chen flatly replied. The clan takes priority over everything, Changyang Shangtian. If you're unwilling to leave behind the winged tiger god, we won't make it difficult for you. However, I do hope your fiancé can move the Bright Moon Divine Hall into our clan from outer space, so many more female descendants of the clan can enter the Divine Hall to cultivate and thus strengthen our clan. Changyang Qin Juri and Changyang Qin Yunfeng walked in from outside. The speaker was Changyang Qin Juri. He still had his sights set on the Bright Moon Divine Hall. Changyang Zhu Yunshao and Changyang Zhu Shao looked at one another, and they frowned slightly. They became troubled. Jian Chen's face grew cold. Yuer needs to absorb moonlight force to cultivate. The Divine Hall can only gather moonlight force at a faster rate in outer space, so if it's moved into this independent space, it'll definitely affect Yuer cultivation greatly, and if you want to cultivate by absorbing moonlight force, you need to have Fairy Hao use cultivation method and a special constitution. Even if you send the female clansmen into the Divine Hall, they can't absorb moonlight force. All the high-tier battle skills and cultivation methods obtained by ancestors have been stored in the library of the clan so that our heritage deepens. Jian Chen, you're also a great elder of the clan, so can't you think of the future of the clan? Changyang Qin Juri spoke to Jian Chen with an ordinary tone. He seemed like he was discussing something simple with Jian Chen. Jian Chen sneered, and his eyes suddenly narrowed. A pressing coldness constantly flickered in his eyes as he called out, Changyang Qin Juri, are you forcing me to do that? Jian Chen referred to Changyang Qin Juri by his name. He was furious, so he showed no respect. Changyang Qin Juri stared blankly at how Jian Chen behaved, where he wanted to fight as soon as there was a disagreement. A sliver of cold light flickered in the depths of his eyes, and he said with a deep voice, Changyang Shangtian, this is the rules of the clan. All predecessors have abided by them. Do you plan on breaking them? Juri, enough. Shangtian's only just returned to the clan. He hasn't adapted to the rules, so let's not talk about the winged tiger god and bright moon divine hall for now, Changyang Qin Yun mediated. He knew that forcing Jian Chen to do things he did not want to do with his stubborn personality would probably lead to blunders. Changyang Qin Juri, do you really think that I, Jian Chen, really care about the position of a great elder? If it weren't for my great-grandfather, I definitely would not have taken up the position. I hope none of you mention requests that go overboard in the future, or don't blame me for disrespecting my elders, Jian Chen coldly said. Even though he was in a protector clan right now, he felt no fear. Luaner, let's go. Throwing that down, Jian Chen strode toward the exit of the clan with Huang Wan. He paid no attention to Changyang Qin Yun and the others who had already paled. Everyone, let's not go overboard with Shangtian. He's no ordinary clansman. We got him to join the protector clan after much difficulty, so if we end up chasing him away, only we will be in for the loss, Changyang Zhu Yunshao grumbled. He seemed extremely displeased. Think about the matters with Flame City. Back then, when the 10 protector clans appeared at the same time to stop Jianchen, everyone still ended up helpless in the end, added Changyang Zhu Shao, before leaving with Changyang Zhu Yunshao. Jianchen and Huang Wan left the protector clan accompanied by Changyang Zhu Yunshao and Changyang Zhu Shao. As they traveled to the exit, the two great elders constantly comforted Jianchen and also put in good words about the protector clan. My great-grandson, don't let Elder Qing Yun and Jury get to your mind. The clan's rules are indeed like that, so they're just considering the clan's future, Changyang Zhu Yunshao explained. Jianchen did not want to dwell on the matter anymore, so he said to Changyang Zhu Yunshao, I want to know about the strength and location of the Ya Mahal. The Ya Mahal. Changyang Zhu Yunshao slightly frowned. After a while of thought, he said, that's an organization that has existed on the continent for over 100,000 years. Their strength is quite impressive, much stronger than ordinary ancient clans. The leader of the organization was a saint king at the 8th heavenly layer 1,000 years ago, but he was heavily injured by the sect master of the Bloodsword sect, Houston. He was at death's door, but now that a whole millennium has passed, I wonder if the former Yama has recovered. Other than the former Yama, who is the most powerful, there are two other saint kings. One of them is the current Yama while the other is the spectral elder. Their strengths are unknown, and the organization is set up in a divine hall. It often moves around, so even if you use everything you have to look for them, it's extremely difficult to find where they are in a short amount of time. Jianchen learned some information regarding the assassination organization from Changyang Zhu Yunshao before bidding farewell to them. He directly proceeded to the sea realm through a space gate constructed by Changyang Zhu Yunshao. Jianchen and Huang Wan appeared above a boundless ocean, heading to where the sea race was after determining their orientation. Suddenly, the sunny sky darkened in an instant. A thick layer of clouds gathered at a shocking rate, blotting out the sky. The clouds radiated with light of 7 colors. Someone's reaching Saint King. Both Jianchen and Huang Wan became stunned. Jianchen stared at the rainbow clouds in the sky as he murmured. From today on, there would be one more Saint King. On a desolate little island several tens of thousand kilometers away from Jianchen, a bare-chested, middle-aged man in shorts sat on the ground. The profound presence of the mysteries of the world constantly radiated from him as the surrounding space violently shook so much that it was warping. It blurred the man's figure. In the independent space inhabited by the Tyrant's Blade School, 100-meter tall, glistening machete stood in a valley protected by multiple powerful formations. It possessed a devastating might as it radiated with a bright glow. Suddenly, the machete began to tremble slightly even though it had stood there without moving for a very long time. Something seemed to have awakened within the blade, causing it to radiate with a vast pressure. It constantly increased, reaching an unbelievable level in the blink of an eye. An extremely powerful energy fluctuated within the machete. It usually never stirred, yet it began to flow slowly at this moment. Bang! 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 The powerful formations in the surroundings that trapped the machete all exploded. The clear resonance of the blade rang through the entire space, and then the machete turned into a silver blob. It ripped through space and vanished from the independent world. Shit! The Emperor armaments run away. A panic-stricken and terrified cry suddenly rang out at almost the same time the machete had disappeared. 6 people of varying ages fused with the surrounding space, arriving where the machete was in a single step. All 6 of them were great elders of the Tyrant's Blade School. Fear and disbelief had flooded all of their faces right now. What's happened? It was all fine, so how could the Emperor armament run off without any reason? This has never appeared in the records, so in other words, this is the first time something like this has happened in all of history. The Emperor armament is the treasure of our Tyrant's Blade School. We can't afford to lose it. We need to get it back. The Emperor armament ties into the heritage of the Tyrant's Blade School. No matter how great the price is, we have to get it back. the great elders all became extremely stern as they panicked inside. They immediately opened the world gate to the outside world and used a secret technique to sense where the Emperor armament was. They chased after it. In the vast ocean, the 7-colored rainbow clouds flooded the sky. The burly, middle-aged man remained with his eyes closed as he sat on the desolate island. At this moment, an extremely terrifying energy appeared boldly from the horizon. A streak of dazzling white light cut through the sky, traveling straight for the middle-aged man with unbelievable speed. Jian Shen sensed the extremely powerful energy ripple immediately from several tens of thousand kilometers away. He immediately became astounded and hoarsely said, "An Emperor armament. This is the presence of an Emperor armament. What terrifying pulses of energy. It gives me the feeling that I'm faced up against a Saint Emperor. It's a mere weapon, yet it possesses such terrifying might. Is it an Emperor armament of a protector clan?" Jian Shen hesitated for a moment before hurrying over quickly with Huang Wan. The blinding white light descended onto the island, stopping above the middle-aged man's head. It transformed into a 1.5-meter-long machete. The blade hovered gently as it enveloped the man with a dazzling glow. The man seemed to sense nothing as he remained seated there. The space near the island ripped open and formed a 5-colored space gate. The great elders of the Tyrant's Blade School charged out from inside, arriving on the island. As they ran through the air, they surrounded the middle-aged man, who was in the middle of his breakthrough. They were all filled with shock. Chapter 1089, Gue Hai Dao, 2. This is the Emperor armament that has existed in our Tyrant's Blade School for more than 1,000,000 years. Can anyone give me an explanation on what is happening? A great elder said in shock as disbelief filled his face. Who is this person? Why is the Emperor armament of our school so close with him? This has never happened before. Has the Emperor armament come out just for this person? The great elders of the Tyrant's Blade School were all frightened. The Emperor armament was just too important to the Protector clan. They could not afford to lose it. They all felt very uneasy when they saw how the Emperor armament was floating so close to an outsider. The Emperor armament was left behind by our founding ancestor. No one has been able to control it in all these years, yet the Emperor armament's behaving in such a strange way now. Has it been controlled by an outsider? The Emperor armament cannot fall into the hands of outsiders. If it really reaches that point, we'll kill this person, an older great elder sternly said. His voice was filled with killing intent. Let me retrieve the Emperor armament. One of the middle-aged men took a step forward. His hand was protected by a thick layer of Saint Force and World Force as he grabbed at the hilt. However, as soon as his hand approached the glow of the Emperor armament, blood was thrown into the air. His hand was reduced to a bloody mess. If he had not pulled it back so quickly, his hand would probably have been destroyed. Impossible, impossible. I've actually been injured by the Emperor armament, and this isn't because of the backlash from the Emperor armament. The man stared at his bloody hand. He felt astounded. The other great elders of the Tyrant's Blade School were all shocked as well. They struggled to believe what had just happened. When they touched the Emperor armament before, they would only suffer a backlash from the great power of the Emperor armament. This was the first time an injury from the Emperor armament had occurred. The great elders did not understand what was happening to the Emperor armament, but they could not approach it. As a result, all they could do was stand there and slowly wait. Jian Shen and Huang Wan approached the island very quickly. They saw what was happening there clearly. Jian Shen recognized the weapon as an Emperor armament of a Protector clan, so he secretly raised his guard. Jian Shen, do you know what they're doing? Huang Wan leaned on Jian Shen as she asked a question out of curiosity while pointing her finger at the island. Jian Shen shook his head as he stared attentively at the Emperor armament and the man who had suffered earlier. He too felt extremely curious. The great elders discovered Jian Shen as he approached them and recognized him with a single glance. A sliver of fear appeared in their eyes as they looked around cautiously before relaxing a little. Jianshen, the Tyrant's Blade School has matters here. I hope you do not approach us just in case it leads to a misunderstanding. An elderly man clasped his hands at Jianshen from afar. Jianshen and Huang Wan did not get any closer, watching on from afar in amusement. So it's the Emperor Armament of the Tyrant's Blade School. By the looks of it, the Emperor Armament seems to have lost control and has come here by itself. Though, who is that person, and why has the Emperor Armament suddenly seeked him out? Jianshen deduced inside. The great elders all formed a circle around the middle-aged man who was breaking through to prevent him from suddenly fleeing after rousing from the breakthrough. The Emperor Armament levitated above the burly man as a layer of blinding white light enveloped the man from above. This was an extremely powerful type of light, able to easily injure Saint Kings. Clearly, it was protecting the middle-aged man who was in the middle of his breakthrough. This lasted for 6 whole hours before the man completed his breakthrough. He slowly opened his eyes. In that instant, 2 bolts of lightning seemed to shoot out of his eyes. His eyes became abnormally bright, like 2 bright pearls in the dark night. All the great elders of the Tyrant's Blade School shuddered inside under the gaze of the man. At that moment, they discovered in shock that they seemed to have been seen through by the middle-aged man, as if nothing was a secret to him. The great elders all became extremely astounded. They were all people who had stepped into Saint King for many years, yet they had just been seen through by someone who had just reached Saint King. They found this unbelievable. The heavy gaze of the middle-aged man vanished very quickly and returned back to normal. His pitch-black and profound eyes seemed to contain a whole different world, as if it was a vast and boundless universe. The man slowly raised his head toward the sky and faintly smiled. He produced a deep sigh. Tian Yuan continent, Gui Hai Dao, have finally returned. I never thought that the energy of the world would have become so thin after being gone for so long. The man was melancholy. He gently waved an arm and the Emperor Armament floating above him immediately and obediently flew into his hand. The glow of the blade actually failed to harm the man. I have already returned successfully. I wonder if you guys have returned. Reminiscence flooded his eyes as he stared at the sky. The great elders all witnessed what the Emperor Armament did. They felt utterly dumbfounded. The Emperor Armament had existed for so many years in the Tyrant's Blade School, yet there was no one in all of history who could wield it in such an easy fashion. Sir, who are you? In your hand is the Emperor Armament of the Tyrant's Blade School. Please return it immediately, just in case it leads to a misunderstanding, the elderly great elder said. The man leveled his gaze at the great elders around him. He said, "Are you disciples of the Tyrant's Blade School? I never thought the Tyrant's Blade School would become weaker and weaker." What did you say? The great elders' expressions all drastically changed. Their eyes narrowed, and they seemed to be ready to fight over the next disagreement. As one of the 10 protector clans of the continent, the Tyrant's Blade School was an overlord without a doubt. No one had ever dared to speak to them like that. The man smiled scornfully. "My name is Gui Hai Dao. I wonder if there's still anyone who remembers me after so many years." As he said that, he gently swung the Emperor Armament and cut through the space like a hot knife through butter. A space gate formed and he directly left through it. However, the landscape beyond the space gate seemed the same as the space where the Tyrant's Blade School dwelled. The great elders all stood there astounded. Disbelief flooded their faces as their hearts churned. They struggled to calm down. "Gui Hai Dao, Gui Hai Dao. Is he?" one of the great elders said with a trembling voice as shock filled his face. "Impossible, it can't be him," the great elders all involuntarily cried out. None of them were able to remain calm. "He can actually return to our independent space without going through the world gate. Let's return quickly," the elderly great elder hurriedly said as he watched the man disappear. Afterward, the great elders all split open the space and left, returning to the protector clan as fast as they could. From afar, Jian Chen stared deeply in the direction where the great elders had disappeared. A gleam of light flashed through his eyes as he began to ponder. He felt extremely curious about the middle-aged man's identity. Gui Hai Dao. That person's called Gui Hai Dao. Who is he? Jian Chen gently murmured. However, before he could obtain an answer, he left with Huang Wan, continuing his way to the territory of the sea race. Soon, Jian Chen arrived in the air above the sea realm with Huang Wan. The sea goddess illusionary figure appeared almost the moment he arrived. Your Majesty, Wanner possesses the water spirit's body. I want to leave her in the sea realm to cultivation. Jian Chen clasped his hands to the sea goddess in an extremely courteous manner. The sea goddess slowly nodded. She turned her blurry face to Huang Wan. Jian Chen, the secret technique that entwines your friend's fate with someone else has been removed, but another secret technique has been planted in her by someone else. What? Another person's planted a new secret technique in Huang Wan's soul? Jian Chen paled in fright. He seemed to have been struck by a bolt from the blue. Huang Wan's face also began to sink. A sliver of paleness appeared on her face as she tightly clenched her fists. She remained silent. Correct, and this secret technique has been recently planted. It has completely fused with her soul, so it hides extremely deep. If it weren't for my powerful soul, probably no one would have realized it, said the sea goddess. Jian Chen's face began to darken. He gnashed his teeth. Changyang Qingyun. It must be Changyang Qingyun, that old fox. Jian Chen's face was cold as killing intent flooded him inside. Jian Chen, I can sense that this secret technique cannot pose any harm to your friend for now. Leave your friend in the sea goddess hall. I'll get the hall master to think of a method and see if she can remove the seal or not. However, the secret techniques of the protector clans are extremely profound, and those that target the soul are especially complicated. Even I am helpless before them, said the sea goddess. Jian Chen clasped his hands in gratitude before leaving Huang Wan there. Jian Chen, I will come and find you after I become a saint king. Huang Wan cried out as she tearfully stared at Jian Chen's back. She knew that there she wouldn't see Jian Chen for a very long time. In the Tyrant's Blade School, the Emperor armament had been returned to the Forbidden Grounds. It was stabbed into the ground in a 100-meter-long form as it radiated with powerful blade qi. The bare-chested Gui Hai Dao sat on the giant hilt with his eyes closed. The great elders returned from outside and excitedly stared at Gui Hai Dao with a group of saint rulers. Are you really the founder of our Tyrant's Blade sect? The elderly great elder asked with a trembling voice. His eyes were filled with hope. So many years have passed. I didn't think you bunch of juniors would still remember me. Looks like I didn't found this school for nothing, Gui Hai Dao said with his eyes closed. His voice was extremely indifferent, giving off an unfathomable feeling. The group of expects immediately rejoiced when they confirmed Gui Hai Dao's identity. However, all of them were filled with endless suspicion at the same time. Founder, it's been over 1,000,000 years since that age. How is it possible for you to still be alive? A great elder asked. When I reached the end of my life, I used an absolute secret technique to seal my memories into the wave-breaking blade and threw my soul into samsara at the same time. Once the circumstances are right, my memories sealed in the wave-breaking blade will sense it and control the weapon to come find me. The weapon will return my memories, allowing me to remember my past life. I have only just recovered my memories right now. Gui Hai Dao explained. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.